by the time you're hearing this, if you're a Wednesday weenie, that is, it'll be about 5 days until the man himself, Donald Trump, will be inaugurated as president again.
Yes.
And that is it's a scary prospect. That's going to happen, I guess. It's not really a prospect.
That's not fun. There's nothing we could do about it now.
Nothing we could do about it.
There certainly was things we could have done about it. Not like you and me, but like people who wield actual power. Stuff that they could have done about it a couple months ago that they just didn't and failed to execute on. And as a result, we're going to have a very interesting 2025, 2026, 2027.
And that's sort of the spirit of this introduction to this episode here. We'll be talking about a bunch of stuff that Trump's planning to do, that he might do, some imperialism even. But today, at the beginning of this episode at least, we got some claims from Joe Biden.
Yeah, once again, we got to remind you that this guy is the president right now.
President of the United States, yeah.
Surprisingly still.
And Joe Biden was asked by a reporter if he thinks, he could have done anything different in this past 2024 election. And Joe Biden had an interesting answer that I think we owe it to him to hear him out.
Yeah, hear straight from the horse's mouth.
Exactly. So let's take a listen to this clip. Joe Biden here at a press conference a couple of days ago, and we'll see if he's cooking it all.
President, do you regret your decision to run for re-election? Do you think that made it easier for your predecessor to now become your successor?
I don't think so. I think I would have beaten Trump, beaten Trump, and I think that Kamala could have beaten Trump and would have beaten Trump. It wasn't about, I thought it was important to unify the party. And when the party was worried about whether or not I was going to be able to move, I thought even though I thought I could win again, I thought it was better to unify the party. And it was the greatest honor in my life to be President of the United States, but I didn't want to be one who caused a party that wasn't unified to lose an election.
So
and that's why I stepped aside, but I was confident she could win.
He's so goddamn old.
Man, that sucks. Like, no recognition that his debate performance was so historically bad that it caused us to just completely deviate from any historical precedent that's ever been set and go down this completely new path. Never been done before, because he just wouldn't do it. He still says, "No, I still probably could have done it though."
And he still showcases a complete inability to understand why Democrats lost this election and why he was set up to do so poorly, even though his own internal polling was showing him like losing 400 to 100 in the Electoral College. It's insane how fucking delusional this old man is. And the part that really gets me isn't just that he says, "I think I could have won." It's that he says he thinks Kamala could have won.
Like, yeah, she could have if you'd have stepped down sooner.
Right. What was the decisive factor there? It was you.
She absolutely could have won. She didn't win, but she absolutely could have won should you just have not run for re-election.
Yeah.
And she won a primary.
Yeah.
Man.
Like, he wanted to unify the party. That's not what, if that even is what you did it way too late.
Yeah, the party was actually pretty unified until you did very bad, historically bad. You're actually the reason that the party was divided in the first place.
Yeah, it's so crazy that this dude can get out here and say shit like this.
Yeah, and then he's out here saying he wants to unify the party. He wanted to unify the party and blah, 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 blah. Party absolutely is in a worse place than it was before we went into this.
Oh yeah,
we got fucking Jerry Connolly with the appointment to the rhetoric committee over AOC. We are just further alienating ourselves. They are further alienating themselves from the progressive wing of the party, and it's just we're in shambles right now.
Yeah, the party's fractured. I mean, every commentator is basically saying, "I don't even know what the Democratic Party stands for." Even those on the left are saying, like, "I don't know, like, what does the Democratic Party do?"
And shit, we're gonna get into it later, where it's like, I don't know what the Democratic Party stands for.
No, me neither. Yeah, because we are completely fractured right now. Like you said, AOC didn't get that the position on the rhetoric committee. But also, like, you've got people trying to take the Democratic Party in a bunch of different directions, with Fetterman meeting with Trump, I think, like, tomorrow or sometime soon. Fetterman's been on this kind of right-wing slant for a while now, of course. AOC accurately saying that we need to do economic populism. But then you got people like fucking Seth Moulton saying that we need to not be afraid to say we don't want grown men tackling our daughters during high school football or soccer or whatever.
Yeah, as we're going to cover later, we have Democratic, like, aides and staffers going and speaking to the media saying, well, the people elected conservatives, so we need to be conservatives now.
That's crazy.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
This is like the rot within the Democratic Party. They look out, or they do their polls or their focus groups, or they look at election results, and then they decide what their positions will be. The right wing just takes positions and pulls the Overton window to their side. And Democrats don't do that.
And it's like also most importantly, like we'll get into this sentiment more later, but it's appropriate to bring up now. Like when Democrats can't get something done, when it's unpopular for Democrats to get something done, or there's a procedural thing, a rules thing that is standing in their way, they say, I respect this institution and the rules that govern its body. I will not try to do this again. But when conservatives are told no by either the public or by procedure, they go and say, okay, I'm going to change the rules. Get shit on. And the Democrats say, no, you can't do that.
Yeah, no, my rules, these sacred laws.
My rules have been changed. I'm not going to do anything about this.
Yeah, and importantly, Democrats sort of concede to the institutions when it's issues like, I don't know, kids being able to eat.
Yeah.
Or like the child tax credit, for example, right? Like it's these very important things that tangibly help people, and they sort of concede to the institutions, and voters might look at that and say like, well, then what are you doing for me at all? Like, I don't care about these institutions. I don't care about the fucking Senate parliamentarian. Who cares?
Yeah, conservatives take positions and make them popular. Democrats, or at least the old heads in the party, the Joe Bidens, the Jerry Connellys, the Nancy Pelosi's, look at polling that's often wrong and from the devil and made to mislead, and say, okay, I'm going to try and adopt this position damn near maliciously.
Yeah. And it's like exemplified in what Trump's been saying recently, and we'll get into him doing a sort of Trump imperialism, I guess, a Trump style of imperialism. But he's been talking about the Panama Canal a bunch recently. Yeah. And one of the justifications he has for his position is that Jimmy Carter lost the election because he sold the Panama Canal to Panama for $1. Very much not why he lost.
Hey, bro, that was also like a minute ago.
Well, long time ago. Also not why he lost.
Yeah.
He very much lost because of the hostages. But, I mean, Trump's just like inventing a narrative here.
Yeah.
And he's sticking to it. Democrats don't do that.
They really need to just start.
Yeah.
Just get out there, just say anything and just stick to it. Just adopt a position and stick to it.
Yeah, you got to be about it, man.
Exactly. Democrats are the reason why people don't trust politicians.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
Also, you all might have seen at Carter's funeral a couple of days ago, Obama and Trump chopping it up, laughing
giggling
together. I don't really have much to say about that. It's silly. It's a funny image, and it just kind of shows you, like, yeah, they don't really hate each other that much. They don't really think he's that much of a threat, because if they did, you wouldn't be chopping it up with him. So whatever. What are you gonna do, right?
It's just it's just fucking politics.
Yeah, not great. Welcome back to Head in the Office, everybody. We've got an absolutely loaded episode for you today.
Yeah, after weeks of kind of nothing happening, a lot sure did happen.
Yeah, start of the year, we got California's sky turning red.
Yep.
We got Trump promising to invade several countries.
We've got just insane legislation being pushed through Congress.
And worst of all, TikTok's probably going away.
Genuinely worst of all.
That's a third of our income.
Yeah,
what are we talking about?
Small business is taking massive hits.
Yeah,
as the Trump administration starts.
It's really not great. But before we get into all of that, of course, I'm going to ask you all to go become a patron. As we just said, we're about to lose like 29% of our income.
We're taking a pay cut.
Well, we're taking a hit, folks. And if you want to help support the show and keep us running over here in our beautiful studio, go and become a patron. It's down there in the description. And on top of that, I think we'll be doing next week, we'll be doing a little Q&A.
Yeah, person of interests, us.
Yeah, we're going to be the people of interest for this month. So you can go down into the description. You can click on the Q&A form, ask as many questions as you want. Priority given to patrons, of course, naturally, as we have every single time we've done one of these. And next week, probably, maybe like, I don't know, Monday or something like that, we'll drop the Q&A episode on Patreon first.
Exclusively.
As we always do. And if you want access to that, you got to go become a patron.
And if you're not, you'll get it like a week later or something like that.
Maybe like a year later. Who knows?
Maybe never.
Maybe never.
Fucking I decide.
Shuts us down.
I'm the arbiter of this.
You can also get some merch if you want to support us. You can also go get 40% off Ground News. That's 40, folks.
40.
We've been upgraded.
They said, we're so happy with how you guys have been producing. Here's an extra boon to your audience.
And I think more people should be talking to us like that. Talk to me nice.
I think so too.
Talk to me nice. If you want to support the show in other ways, though, of course, you can follow us on all of our socials. Very important now that TikTok is going away.
Especially important now that TikTok is going away.
Very sad about that one. But also, finally, one of the longest enduring ways to support the show is by leaving a 5-star review on Apple. This first one, though, is not from Apple. It's actually from Patreon. It's from a patron. And I couldn't not read it if it's from a patron.
Of course, we are at the behest of you.
Functionally a royal decree.
And a friend.
So I'm going to read this one from Patreon, but we also got some Apple reviews. If you want your Apple review read, you know where to go. Leave a 5-star review. We'll read it on the show. This one from Kristen on Patreon. Sending my 5-star review here because I'm listening to today's episode on Patreon. I'm also from Norway, so my Apple review would never have reached you. Here in socialist utopia, where the next prime minister, elections in September, most definitely will not be from the furthest right party represented in parliament, and the so-called Labour Party is near death because of, one, the terror attack from the far-right nut Anders Behring Breivik, I don't know, Norwegian name.
Yeah, it's real.
Where he literally killed or severely hurt the next generation of leaders in labor.
I condemn that.
Yikes, I condemn political violence. That. 2, they have been in government since 2021 with a party that mostly hates Oslo, the capital, hates the EU, and are super obsessed with farmers, the districts, and are super isolationist. It looks like it's not going very well.
That's what I'm saying,
over in Norway. This is the party that joined the Nazis when Norway was occupied in 1940. This is in many ways a lesson. I'm a teacher and work with 16 to 19-year-olds. It's the best job ever, and one of the reasons I love your pod so much. One of the reasons I love your pod so much is that I get new ideas for how I can bring up different topics with the youths. I will be 35 this year, so if I had been in Ohio or whatever and the timeline was different, I could literally be your mother. I'm not sure how old you think we are.
Yeah.
That would have made you 12.
I mean, maybe.
12. You would have had to give birth at 12.
Yeah.
For that to work out.
Big guy's 24 this month. We're entering our mid-20s.
Yeah, exactly.
It's ridiculous out here.
That felt very wrong writing down. It's probably not right. But I get the sentiment. I will say I do condemn Hamas and ISIS again, of course. And
nice.
as I know that I have a very good paycheck, I did upgrade to the celestial being on Patreon. And if other Norwegians are listening, come on. We are the world's evil billionaire. So thank you for that great review all the way from Norway.
Wicked to see anti-incumbency hitting Norway too.
Hitting everywhere.
You know that when it's hitting Syria, it's bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really not looking
Assad
good.
margins no more. How is any other country supposed to stand up, man?
It's fucked up. It's really
ridiculous.
Not good.
Now getting straight over to Apple.
That's right.
With these 5-star reviews. This first one from Magician Mean. Subject line 5-star review. Left 5 stars. It's a good show. Thumbs up.
Oh, my God.
Short and sweet, baby. Come on.
Brevity. Brevity's a soul of wit. That's what Shakespeare said. Mm-hmm. This next one from Kelsey and her cat Moss, fellow Michigander. They say, first and foremost, I must start with the fact that I condemn Hamas and all political violence.
Good.
Started off the second half of 2024 getting introduced to Hiddo via TikTok, rest in peace. And what a political season to start listening. Thrilling and entertaining. Here's to a good 2025 and going into a new year staying up to date with politics through the #1 geopolitical podcast. And as an addendum, I'll add #1 local politics podcast.
I was going to say, absolutely.
#1 national news politics podcast. You can add them all.
Guys, we can't forget this in 2025.
Exactly.
We're not just, you know what? Maybe we've stuck ourselves into that niche of being the #1 geopolitics podcast. Heavy burden to bear, believe me.
No,
but
I
mean, we heavy is the crown.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But also, we can't forget that we are dominating local news coverage right now.
Exactly.
And especially in 2025, we'll be popping off with local news coverage. Please. Mm-hmm. Don't forget.
We're the Greek god or whatever that's like under the earth holding it up. That's
Atlas.
Me. Yeah.
That's exactly 100%.
And I'm not shrugging.
Never once. But either way, this next 5-star review from Austin T. Reed, W Podcast. First of all, I condemn Hamas and all acts of political violence. Secondly, I've been listening to The Boys since 2021. This is an OG right here. Mm-hmm. And been an on and off Sunday supremacist. I work in politics in Missouri and funds are tight sometimes. I bet, man.
Josh Hawley's Missouri.
Literally. There's no podcast better than this one if you're looking for banter and correct opinions while feeling like you have a conversation with close friends. Keep up the good work. Well, I will also add that if you are a Sunday supremacist, we are close friends.
We are.
We are close friends.
That's like a part of our social contract.
It's part of the deal, and we're upholding our end.
This next one's from Normal Nermal, Ohio Hiddo says, boys, I had written up a thesis level review. But the Apple review team must have been packed with Michiganders, just like my favorite podcast. As your neighbor down south, I've got to condemn all acts of Ohio slander, political violence, and Hamas.
I'm gonna have to condemn that condemnation, man. I can't.
Seriously, though, thank you for all your journalistic integrity and for making me laugh even while hearing how boned we are as a nation. 12 out of 10.
12 out of 10?
12 out of 10.
That's pretty good.
We earned the extra credit, I think.
I think so as well. We're putting in work. How many other podcasts are number one in literally every category?
How many other podcasts are operating through the Christmas season? Come on.
Everybody else on break. All these other podcasts doing seasons, only
Exactly.
working fucking 3 months out of the year. Who the fuck do you think we are? We've been working for, 184 weeks straight?
Come on, brother. What are we talking about?
Never missed a week. And I digress. This last review we have from Yes. Great show. We all can see how radical the left has become in this country, so it's nice to finally find a podcast where two nice young liberals are willing to go against the grain, condemn Hamas and political violence, a view I wholeheartedly share. Found these guys on TikTok like most, but have since been enjoying watching on YouTube. In video format, you can truly see the earnestness of their condemnations. Support these guys on Patreon. They deserve it. I agree. Massive cosign on that last part.
I can't tell if they're being serious or not. With
It's got to be a joke after last week. It's got to be a joke.
Two nice young liberals. That's funny.
I do also have to give a shout out outside of the 5-star reviews. My cousin is a flight attendant, right?
Okay.
He told me he's walking up and down the aisles doing his flight attendant things. You know how people are like, watching videos, reading books to entertain themselves on long flights?
Yeah.
He said he saw somebody watching us
No
on
way.
the fucking
What are the
airplane.
chances? Wow.
That's what I'm saying.
That's crazy.
So shout out to whoever was watching us on the airplane. That's crazy.
Yeah, let us know who you are.
Like, home address, all this other stuff.
We got at max we max out at like 5,000 listens a week, probably something like that. Once it all gets totaled up across various platforms. So if you're that person, let us know.
Shouts out.
You're probably listening again to this episode.
Got to.
Thanks for listening on the plane. You should ask the pilot to put it like on the speakers all around though.
That's true.
Just constantly, everyone.
You
has
already
to listen.
had the in with the flight attendant. You know what I mean? Just talk to him, be like, "Hey, can we get this going?" And he'll be like, "Yeah."
Yeah. That seems like your duty as a listener of this show.
We're supposed to spread the word. Don't you guys also like to forget that this is the Sunday sermon?
Yeah. Have you heard the good news?
Have you heard the good word? You're supposed to be evangelizing.
Yeah, come on now. Anyways, thank you all for the 5-star reviews. I'll remind you once again, make sure to leave your questions on the Q&A form that we will link down in the description. It'll be on the Patreon description. It'll be on the Apple podcast, the Spotify, blah, 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 blah. It'll be everywhere.
Yeah, it's like the annual Q&A at this point.
Exactly.
Come on,
it's the beginning of the year. We're doing another Q&A. So leave your questions. We'll be recording it next week, dropping it on Patreon first. But we got to deal with this week's news coverage first.
Yeah, we do.
Before we can get to next week, we got to deal with this week.
Sometimes the only way out is through.
That's right. And this week, we're going to start off talking about Trump-Mania. Yeah. And I'll just say, buckle in and get ready for 4 years of this repeated segment.
4 more years. Wow,
Four
man,
years
that's crazy.
of something like this probably every week, going through what Trump has said and what Trump has done. Because that's who we are. That's what we do.
Absolutely. Come on now. We got to point out the absurdity.
Getting into it for this week, we're going to talk first about Trump's agenda and how he plans to implement it, because this new session of Congress, although it is dominated by Republicans, is still pretty split on how it's going to happen. And just a spoiler alert, this doesn't necessarily mean it's not going to happen. I'm guessing he's going to get everything that he wants.
Probably.
But we're just talking about the way in which it happens. And maybe, if we're lucky, some of the bad things will get shed and not be able to pass in the end.
Some of the most aesthetically abrasive things will most likely be shed, while the essence of the bill remains.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, but let's get into it. So last Sunday, Trump called on Congress to pass, and this is a quote, "one big, beautiful bill." And you can imagine that sort of in his voice with all of his priorities in it. From ABC, this includes, quote, extending the tax cuts passed during his first term and addressing his immigration reforms, including more funding for Border Patrol and ICE, something Joe Biden also wanted, by the way. Continuing with the quote, Trump has also pushed Congress to increase or eliminate the debt limit, though details of any plan remain unclear. There's two really main issues with Trump and his coalition, at least at the onset of his new administration. One is that a subset of Republicans at least are sort of divided on the debt ceiling issue. They're going to have to address it at some point because it wasn't addressed in that December budget deal. And it doesn't seem like he has the votes to get rid of it entirely unless Democrats help him, which maybe they will. That's always a possibility, of course.
Unfortunately, that is a possibility. I feel like Democrats aren't going to do good things and take advantage of the infighting. And, because like Chip Roy, guys like that, Freedom Caucus people, conservatives have a 2-seat majority in the House, at least until April.
Incredibly slim.
Incredibly slim. That's not slim enough to guarantee passage of really anything, even with how fucking just the same the
Yeah.
GOP is all the time.
Yeah.
There are guys like Chip Roy and the Freedom Caucus people that are just coming out as being no on raising the debt ceiling.
Yeah.
They are hardliners on no more government spending. I want to eliminate the federal government.
Yeah, exactly. So it doesn't seem like he'll be able to do that, at least not immediately. Maybe something will change. And then the second issue he's encountering is that it seems like Trump wants to use budget reconciliation. And for a long time, Hito heads, you'll remember what that is.
Yeah, it's process.
It's basically a budget process in the Senate that makes it so you don't need 60 votes for something to pass. You only need 50 because it's basically reconciling the budget, as is in the title here. So he would only need 50 Senate votes. He wouldn't need to get to 60 to break the filibuster. Of course, if you remember, Republicans are going to have 53 seats in the Senate, so they would need 7 Democrats to break through any filibuster. And because of the schisms in the party right now, this might not work. So those are the two major obstacles. But what I think we'll most likely get is probably a dedicated border bill. That will probably pass because it seems like Democrats are on board with that. As we'll talk about later in the show, an immigration bill is already about to pass.
It feels like as long as you don't put in, like, we want to execute every immigrant, Democrats are all for it.
Yeah, but you can get pretty close to that.
Yeah, you can.
It seems. And then we'll probably get a second budget reconciliation bill or some kind of budget bill that includes tax cuts, maybe debt ceiling stuff, and all the other sort of insane things you want to do.
The border bill will probably be passed as like a clean bill because, like we said, it's easy to get Democrats on board
You
with
only
that.
need 7 of them.
And then tax cuts and other things like that will be in budget reconciliation because you can only do that once per year, right?
Who knows? But like rules don't matter.
And they'll probably go to the parliamentarian and fire him and say,
Kill him.
no, we can actually do it again. Honestly, yeah.
They'll probably threaten to kill the parliamentarian. Yeah. Man. So that sucks. But it's probably that's probably what's going to be happening on Capitol Hill in just a couple of weeks, just like a week or two at this point.
Yeah, I mean, the senators are already like there. We've already started the new like session of Congress. This week, Pete Hegseth, on the 14th, so like a day before this drops, Pete Hegseth has his confirmation hearing.
Oh, nice.
Like we're already starting Senate confirmations for the cabinet picks, man. It's whoo.
I hope we get some good clips out of that.
You think we'll get like a 2 beers moment from him? I like beer.
A Brett Kavanaugh. We'll get a little Kavanaugh out of Hegseth.
What's wrong with me liking beer?
Yeah, I mean, I could imagine that. He did basically say, like, I'll stop drinking if I get the job, which you don't say that if you don't have a drinking problem. Anyways, that's not really the point. Democrats are basically powerless this time around, except when it comes to sort of pronouncing the fractures they see in the right-wing coalition. Who knows if they'll be competent enough to do that? Yeah. I'm not confident they will because of people like Jerry Connolly getting leadership positions. But we'll wait and see. They will have the power to at least tank a few Trump appointments. Yeah. People like Pete Hegseth, maybe RFK Jr., those kinds of people, maybe Kash Patel.
Man, if you could tank the RFK one at least, man, you got it. If you're gonna give your all to one of these things, it's got to be the RFK one.
It's got to be.
Please, man.
Yeah, he's probably the most harmful candidate cabinet nomination out of all of them. But we'll see what happens there. Time will tell, and I wouldn't ever bet on the sort of strategic ability of the Democratic Party.
Never.
At this point.
This Democratic Party, who could?
But in some more sensationalized news, the news you've all been waiting for, the fun news.
Yes.
This is the fun section of the show. Trump's been talking about trying to take control of Canada, Greenland, and the Panama Canal. Sort of imperialist desires, I guess.
What happened to the fucking anti-war ticket?
That's
the
what I'm saying.
pro-peace ticket.
Yeah. All I'm going to say is, like, my cheap eggs are not in Greenland.
Yeah.
How will invading Greenland make my eggs $2 again?
I'm also pretty sure Trump just has not talked about any of those like price issues that got him elected for like at least like the past 2-3 weeks.
You telling me my $2 gallon gas is over in Greenland right now or in the Panama Canal? What are we talking about?
This guy won the election because people thought legitimately that he was going to make grocery prices cheaper. Mm-hmm. And then he wins the election, and all he talks about is, we're going to rename the Gulf of Mexico. Folks, we're going to rename the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which sounds stupid.
I'm going to start a war with Denmark. Like, be so for real. Welcome back, George W. Bush. What are we, I thought we were getting the pro-peace, the isolationist ticket. But here we are, talking about invading Greenland. So unserious.
Fucking Arizona iced tea at my local gas station is fucking $1.79. Mm-hmm. $1.79, and this guy's talking about the Gulf of America?
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's like, we knew that Trump wasn't the anti-war guy. Yep. Like, reasonably, rationally, based on his past administration, we knew he wasn't the anti-war guy. But, like, 49.8% of the voters voted for him because they thought he was.
God
or at least
damn,
in some capacity thought that he was.
And he's out here talking about like, oh, if we can't get the hostages back, it's time to just go even harder on Hamas and Gaza. It's time to like blow up all of Gaza.
Yeah.
That is anti-war.
He said something like, if the hostages aren't out by the time he assumes office, all hell will break loose in the Middle East. Literally,
Brother,
welcome back, George W. Bush.
Not even just Gaza, like the Middle East.
Yeah.
We are going to go to war with Iran, and people will fuck with it.
Yeah,
people will fuck with it. You don't even need to manufacture consent anymore. Man,
don't even need Dick Cheney in the White House. You just get to do this stuff, man. It sucks. It sucks real bad. But on to what Trump has said specifically. He said that Canada should become the 51st state of the United States, and that he'll try to make it happen through economic force. He said no military force with Canada. I guess we're not getting a war of 1812.
Like dying on the Hill too.
Yeah,
like it's I kind of want to just like dismiss all of this as like, oh, Trump is just jesting. You know what I mean? He's just doing his shit. But it's like he's not letting up on this idea that Canada's going to be the 51st state. He won't shut up about it.
Yeah. I don't know much about the politics of Canada because it's a fake country.
Yep.
I know Justin Trudeau just announced that he's not going to be going for PM again.
Yeah,
and it seems like conservatives are about to win big.
I know, like, everybody hates Justin Trudeau too.
Yeah, and fair enough.
Fair enough.
Dude
apparently, housing in Canada is like the worst in the Western world. Like, housing prices are just fucking insane over there.
And he's right above like LA. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like the country with LA in it in New York. Come on now, you have no right being that terrible with housing. But yeah, Canada is not looking very good. But I can't imagine nothing ever happens. You know?
Yep. And it's like the right wing guy is like Trump light. Like he just adopts Trump talking points, but puts them in Canada.
Yeah.
Canada just bites our whole flow.
Exactly. And like, what's Canada's biggest like cultural export? Drake?
Hockey?
What else do they contribute? You know what I'm saying? We really don't. Especially because Canada will do anything we want them to anyway. What's the point of making them a state? Also, is it going to just be one giant state? Won't they just vote for a Democrat?
Yeah.
Won't that just be like 50 electoral votes for a Democrat?
I was going to say, that's going to become that's going to be 270 electoral votes. You're going to need to win Canada and like fucking Missouri to be able to win the election.
I can't deal with that come 2028. Like I can't talk about the fucking swing state of Canada. Be so for real. I can't deal with that. But Trump has said he won't rule out using military force to take control of the Panama Canal or Greenland.
Why? Why?
He was asked explicitly. He said, "No, I can't rule it out."
What's going on in the Panama Canal?
He claims that, first of all, he says it was a bad deal, as I said at the top of the show. He thinks
back in like fucking the 60s, 70s, 80s. Like, what are we talking about?
When Carter sold it to the country of Panama for $1. He just kind of gave it back to him because we were in control of it. We were in control of its construction, but really it was Caribbeans that we paid to go and die while building the Panama Canal.
Wasn't it also kind of like a neo-imperialism kind of thing?
Well, no, it was absolutely an imperialism. Like that was precisely, it was for our military. That was the purpose of it. So Trump says it was a bad deal and we should get it back because we were sort of in charge of sending Caribbeans to die while building it. But he also says that now China is in control of the Panama Canal, which is not true. Anybody can use the Panama Canal. Like, you got to pay to use it, but like international trade, buddy. So I can only think that like, you know, going after Panama and Greenland militarily will just push these countries further into the orbit of China.
Yep.
Because we're aggressing upon these countries.
We're going to push them right into the One Belt, One Road. Like,
yeah. I mean, like, why wouldn't they? You know,
absolutely.
Like,
and it's
I
also
can't
like,
blame them.
You want to use, even just like jesting about using military force to take the Panama Canal. You want to jest about using military force to shut down international shipping?
Yeah.
To monopolize international shipping? We're going to take the Panama Canal. We're going to take Greenland. We're going to take the Suez Canal. Like, what are we doing, dog?
Like, we don't need it. What does the Panama Canal offer us?
Like, would that not just come with massive just complications?
Well, of course, right? Like we'd be stretching ourselves even further than our military already is. The Greenland thing's especially confusing because we already have military bases on Greenland.
They work with us.
Yeah, we don't. What are we talking about?
And like NATO anyway.
Yeah.
Like, man.
Fell for it again award, I guess. But on top of like, you know, my eggs not being in Greenland, I think a more like theoretical point is that like, although Trump is a unique figure and he's a right-wing populist and he sort of tries to appeal to the common man, he can't really escape the sort of ideological trappings of imperialism because that's all this really is.
Yeah.
It sort of echoes the Manifest Destiny or the Monroe Doctrine or even like Lebensraum as like the Nazi justification for needing to expand contents or expand their land masses so they had more like space for people to live or whatever.
I mean, we found a penny with Abe Lincoln's face on it in Greenland, so it's ours.
Exactly, it must be ours. In the modern world, of course, like conquest is always framed in a sort of negative sense, like it's a national security as the justification. That was the justification for the Iraq War. It's the justification for everything Trump wants to do. It's the justification for us sending billions of dollars to Israel.
Yep.
It's always in our national security's best interest, right? And that's exactly what's happening here. But it's still imperialism.
And it's kind of funny, like the irony here between like Trump being like at least like talking about this like America first kind of isolationist guy, and then going, oh, we need to isolate by expanding.
Yeah,
we need to isolate by owning everything.
Yeah,
like
because he says in that press conference I was watching that Greenland is a national security concern for world peace. He's not talking about America's peace. He's talking about world peace.
Yeah.
Which
why?
Starting a war for peace. I don't know. Square that circle, I guess. I don't really know what he's on about. But yeah, it'll be a bit of imperialism, I guess. Definitely not isolationist. It'll cost however many billions of dollars that we will be funneling into the military to do whatever operations, or it'll cost however many billions to purchase Greenland if we're going to go that route. And that's not money going back into the economy. And importantly, that's not making my eggs cheaper.
No, it's not.
And I think that's the sort of rhetorical, optical sort of perspective we all need to take is like, how is this making my eggs cheaper? How is this making gas cheaper?
Like,
why am I still paying rent?
If Democrats don't hit on literally everything that Trump does for the next 4 years by saying, this ain't making groceries cheaper, they failed.
Yeah.
Like, they've absolutely failed. If the media does not hit on everything that Trump's doing with, ayo, what's this doing to meat prices?
Yeah, if anybody responds with, we have a deep and sacred relationship with Denmark, you should not be a politician if that's what you respond with.
You're out. Not a single person is going to listen to you except for us to make fun of you.
Yeah, I just, again, more theoretically, like, this kind of imperialism just isn't necessary anymore.
No.
Like we said, we already basically control Canada. They'll do whatever we want.
And it's like,
we can already use the Panama Canal. We've already got connections and military bases in Greenland. We run the world.
We already run NATO.
Yeah.
Like, we already run NATO. Bro, Europe is not doing anything without us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if we, example, we stop Ukraine funding, Ukraine's fucked. Like,
exactly,
everything kind of runs through us, man.
And China is like the major competitor to the United States on like the sort of economic and military stage. But again, as we said earlier, going after Panama and Greenland militarily is just going to push those countries closer to China. Like there's no influential sort of benefit or advantage to gain here by going after them with this type of aggression. That's why I ultimately think it's nothing.
Yeah.
But like, still, what are you doing?
Like it's gotta just be posturing.
Yeah.
But why?
Yeah, more likely, I think it's probably just Trump using sort of Greenland and Panama as a sort of rhetorical smokescreen to cover up for the fact that he's appointing like exclusively billionaires to his cabinet, or the harmful effects of mass deportation or tariffs or whatever it may be. Like, I think this is just something for the media to eat up to cover up how awful the incoming Trump administration's about to be.
Because like it is one of those things that like, yeah, this is aesthetically abrasive. We're talking about it, you know what I mean? Because it's worthy of talking about. But like ultimately, maybe he's just throwing it out there as like maybe he thinks that he can get negotiating leverage because of this when he throws tariffs at every single country that isn't us. Maybe he thinks if he says he's going to take over the fucking Panama Canal by force, that he can just go and say, well, I'm going to do this if you don't accept my tariff deal.
Yeah. Yeah,
like,
that's probably what it is. And I think it's to like sort of rhetorically or in the news cover up the more banal evils of his administration. Cutting taxes for the rich, for example. If we don't have time to talk about that because we're talking about Greenland, then his sort of policies get implemented without much protest. And I think that's probably the intent here. Even if he's not trying to make it happen that way, even if he genuinely wants to invade Greenland, I think the people behind him are recognizing like, yeah, let him yap. Yep. And we can do all the evil shit while no one's looking. So sort of keep your eye on the prize here, folks. And again, keep asking, where are my $2 eggs?
Where are my eggs at, man?
Why am I paying $10 for a carton of eggs?
Oh, God.
Just to eat in the morning? Where my gas at? Yeah.
Precisely.
Yeah, we should not be paying this much. And it's Trump's economy now. Keep that in mind.
Yeah, it is. It's Trump's economy as soon as he got elected. So anything that's more expensive now is Trump's fault.
Exactly. Well, as soon as it's January 20th, I'm going crazy.
Oh, I'm doing it now. I'm doing it now. It's Trump's fault.
Lastly, for Trump news, and sort of as predicted, the billionaires are falling in line and support of Trump. First, of course, you had Elon Musk, who's more of an enthusiastic supporter than just falling in line. But you did have the Washington Post and Jeff Bezos, of course. You had freaks like Miriam Adelson falling in behind Trump. She's like super Zionist and trying to like push Trump even further to the right in terms of policy with Israel.
That Washington Post stuff was nuts. I don't think we talked about it, but like there was just article over article of just like people resigning from the WAPO because like one guy wanted to make a political cartoon about Bezos being close to Trump, and that no, he absolutely will not.
Yeah, and Bezos stopped them from endorsing probably Kamala Harris.
Yep, like Bezos has just stepped in. They've been stepped in. They've been censored editorially from doing anything that's not.
I think Bezos.
Pro-Trump.
I think Bezos met with Trump too, like for dinner or something. If not at Mar-a-Lago, then somewhere else.
He or Amazon or something like that, I think, gave $1 million to his inauguration committee or some shit like that. Okay, well,
completely bending the knee. But now more recently, it's Mark Zuckerberg gutting what little misinformation protection still exists on Meta's platforms because of what he calls politically biased fact checkers.
Beautiful.
Which is a lot of fun, of course.
That's a quote, by the way.
And yeah, no, that's literally what he said in his little video. And it's hilarious, of course, coming from him because like Facebook is the original petri dish for misinformation on the internet. Like Facebook is the originator of all these misinformation claims about social media apps. It's Facebook that was used in the genocide in Myanmar, by the way.
Literally.
Not TikTok.
Facebook did perpetuate an actual genocide, but also like you look at the top 10 videos on Facebook, Dan Bongino, Ben Shapiro, Dan Bongino, Ben Shapiro, Steven Crowder,
Tucker Carlson. Yeah, no,
there's no such thing as a left-wing bias in any aspect of Facebook. Maybe there are fucking Snopes is coming in like, hey, this is misinformation. But if anything, because Facebook is such a fucking hell pit, people are seeing that and saying, oh, fucking government got him again. This must be really what I should be paying attention to. Yeah, because there's just sheeps of the other herd.
Yeah.
Man.
And a lot of Zuck's claims are basically like the Biden administration was pressuring him to do like censor certain information, if not like around COVID vaccines or around like the Hunter Biden laptop story, for example.
He fucking went on Joe Rogan this week with the stupid ass fucking broccoli hair because he's pretending to be younger than he is, talking about how the federal government put a gun to my head and told me that I had to fucking fucking Dr. Fauci put a gun to my head and tied a fucking knot around my balls and told me that if I don't censor vaccine misinformation, he's gonna pull the string. He said that on Joe Rogan. He's just like, man, I feel like it should be fine for government health authorities to come in, and if misinformation surrounding people's literal health, their lives,
we're in a pandemic, dog,
is spreading on your platform during a fucking dangerous pandemic, they should be able to step in and say, hey, you should censor this misinformation because the general public does not understand the science that they're referencing, the misinformation that they're referencing. That should not be some grave sin. Like it really shouldn't. I think in a like a sensible world, experts are allowed to weigh in on matters pertaining to their expertise.
Yeah.
Man, what a thought.
Yeah, and he was like, oh, they were accusing me of killing people or accusing these posts of killing people. And it's like, well, yeah, if you're allowing misinformation to spread on your platform, then like, yeah, it will result in deaths probably.
And it's like a lot of the misinformation that's spreading genuinely deserves to be cleared up. People were spreading it. Like a big one was when this like big like vaccine report came out, I think like 2 years later, maybe in like 2023 or like late 2022 or something like that. I can't remember exactly when. Pandemic was like kind of long and very fucking weird time. You know what I mean? But there's a vaccine report that came out talking about how like, oh, there has been like myocarditis associated with the COVID vaccine. That was reported in the vaccine report. That is true. People were spreading that piece of information without the context of, but it's lower rates than the actual COVID virus. Therefore, the vaccine is safe and effective. Much lower rates than actual COVID virus. There were posts going around that just separated vaccine data from the context of the overall pandemic to paint the picture, the false picture that these vaccines were not safe. Like, it just, that deserves to be censored. I'm sorry, but that is just misinformation that is harming people and harming the general public. Mark Zuckerberg was on this Joe Rogan show, and he did the, like, dumbass thing where he got on there and said, well, in the first few weeks of the pandemic, they were saying no masks aren't effective, and then they said that masks were effective, so what is it? The answer is masks were effective because that's the stance they kept for the rest of the pandemic. They didn't know what was, if he got on there, he's like, well, they didn't know what was going on for the first few weeks, so that means they couldn't have known what was going on forever. No, you don't know what's going on in the first few weeks of a fucking pandemic because things are crazy, things are weird. You figure it out, you do experiments like they did, and then you adjust course and say, okay, masks are effective, this is what we're going with moving forward.
Well, you don't get it. We initially thought that the Earth was the center of the universe. So there's no way that the Earth could rotate lighter on the sun. That doesn't make any sense.
And it's crazy that like the CDC goes out there and says, hey, we were wrong for the first 2 weeks of what went on to be a years-long pandemic. Let's correct course and issue the correct guidance. Doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Saying, okay, the science changed, so we're going to change our stance. And then people are using that as evidence to say that they don't change their stance when the science is wrong. No, you're just like a flat earther who thinks who does these bullshit experiments.
It's like again, when we talked about Twitter being taken over by Elon Musk and the sort of right-wing attempt to abolish terms of service, if you don't have TOS, if you don't have rules, it's just going to become 4chan or 8chan. Like it's just going to devolve into that, because without sort of guidelines to moderate what people are able to say and the lies that people are able to put up, it's just going to devolve into a cesspit. And Facebook was basically already there. Facebook was never ran by leftists. Twitter was never ran by leftists. It's nonsense to even think that. It just had a little bit more moderation than it does right now. It was a little bit better than it was right now. And without these sort of guidelines, we know the direction that it's heading in.
It's just like so crazy to see Zuckerberg out here acting like the red dot's finally off his forehead now that Trump got elected.
Yeah, the important thing I think is that I think Zuckerberg is sort of empty inside when it comes to like political positions. I don't think he actually believes anything that he says. No. I think he just senses which way the winds are going for his money and is now siding with Donald Trump because he'll be able to sort of perpetuate the growth and stay out of jail under the Trump administration if he's not sort of adjacently connected to liberals, because he used to sort of cosplay as being like a liberal centrist kind of guy. Now he's certainly not doing that, and I think he's just able to sense where the winds are shifting politically in terms of the economy, and he's just moving. Same way Jeff Bezos is, same way every other billionaire is going to do, because that's all they do.
That's how every single company is moving too. Like this week, Amazon announced that they're ending DEI initiatives. I think Walmart also came out and announced similar things. Ford, John Deere, and Toyota have also taken similar measures in the past year after receiving criticisms from conservatives. Like they're just ending DEI stuff. Like the era is over, and it's not going to be because we did the analysis and found these programs aren't effective, like what they said. Maybe some of them weren't, maybe some of them were. But they're coming out and saying we are ending DEI because they are perceiving that it's politically advantageous for them to say that now that Trump got elected.
100%.
They were not going to end these initiatives if Biden won or if Kamala Harris won, not because these initiatives are effective. Like, this isn't a statement on the efficacy of DEI initiatives. This is a statement on how corporations are spineless and they're just going to go where they think the winds are going. It's the same reason why Target and all these other corporations and fucking Lockheed Martin cynically adopt Pride every June. The same reason they do that is the same reason why they're dropping quote-unquote DEI when Trump gets elected. I wouldn't be surprised if they go and drop Pride when this June comes around, too.
I mean, we saw, like, the CIA do it. Or, like, the Pinkerton Detective Agency. Like, did the same thing. Like, they changed their icon to a rainbow because they thought the culture was heading in such a way where they could capitalize on that while disguising their more harmful business practices.
Lockheed Martin dropped gay socks. What are we doing?
It's ridiculous. So none of it's real. Corporations don't have any actual moral principles. They just go where they think the money is going. And for a moment, we were sort of... I guess like I wouldn't say progressive interests were aligned because they obviously weren't, but they were being, the stances of corporations socially were less outwardly harmful. To marginalized groups, slightly less outwardly harmful because they were sort of publicly accepting of various groups. And now all of that progress is being rolled back.
They just like weren't allowing explicit or even some forms of, I don't even want to say implicit bigotry, because none of this is really implicit. Because implicit bigotry is still allowed on like all these platforms.
Of course.
Because it's so implicit, you can't actively like issue policies to necessarily moderate around it. But like, as we're going to talk about with this like Facebook policy change, they're just letting whatever fly now.
Explicitly, Facebook's policy is looking absolutely insane. First, though, I will say Dana White is on the board of directors.
I saw that, bro. That guy sucks so bad.
Was CEO of UFC.
He runs the UFC. I don't know his official title. But
he runs the UFC. He's been a longtime Trump supporter. Very obvious where Mark Zuckerberg is headed now. And for some reason, the right wing has nothing to say about another billionaire joining the ranks of Donald Trump. But Zuckerberg's new guidelines for Facebook and Instagram now explicitly allow for bigotry. I'm going to read you a quote here, and this is just mind-boggling, feels distinctly bad.
Yes.
It says, quote, and again, this is from the guidelines that they published. We do allow allegations of mental illness or abnormality when based on gender or sexual orientation, given political and religious discourse about transgenderism and homosexuality in common non-serious usages of words like weird. What do you even say?
And
what
it's
do you
also
even say?
it's also interesting that they add that last part there to talk about common and non-serious usages of words like weird, because that's there to mask like the explicit bigotry going on. You are never going to get banned on Facebook for saying that gay people are weird.
No.
Nobody has ever banned anybody for being like trans people are weird.
I see that in the comments of Instagram posts all the time.
Exactly.
Like literally every single post.
That's not like what they're talking about here. That's like a red herring thrown on here. It's like, again, they said we allow allegations of mental illness. They're going to allow you to just say that to just deny people's identity, to like insult people based on protected class.
Yes,
essentially is what's going on here. That's insane. That is more than just a shift because they think that the headwinds are moving towards a more conservative like culture.
Yeah. And it says, given political and religious discourse about transgenderism, homosexuality, and so on, just because it's currently an issue that right-wingers have made an issue means it's fair game.
Yeah.
Like that's the only reason. So if they were to go back and say like, oh, actually black people are inferior to white people, and that became an overt sort of section of discourse in society, would Facebook then be like, okay, that's actually cool.
Okay, that's
you can
fine,
talk about that just because it's a current thing that people are debating, regardless of the merits of the issue, regardless of what's true, regardless of what the science actually says, because some people are saying it, and because they've made it popular, and because they have a massive media apparatus behind them to also say it at the same time, we will allow it on the platform, even though it's hateful.
Yeah.
What the fuck are we talking about?
That's insane.
It's a post-truth society. Nothing matters.
An absolutely crazy place to be.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, man.
Feels very distinctly bad and not good.
Not good at all.
If you can still look at Donald Trump and say, yeah, this is the anti-establishment guy, I'm impressed with the delusion, and I wish I could have some of that.
The way that every single billionaire has fallen in line after Trump's win.
Yeah.
Man, the Democrats are more anti-establishment than Trump is. Like,
yeah, no, it's and Democrats are the establishment.
Exactly. Where have we gone?
You know what one of my favorite activities is?
What?
Reading.
Oh, I love reading. I love literature.
And one of my favorite things to read are the reviews we get on Apple Podcasts.
Always.
Not only do I love to read them, but it's a really great way to support the show. If you want to help us out, go and leave a 5-star review on Apple. As always, we read them here on the show. And if you want to make me happy, if you want to become my non-parasocial friend,
that's right.
One step on the 1,000 steps that it takes to get there is to leave a 5-star review on Apple. We'd really appreciate it.
Just remember, my friendship, it's for sale. And
Precisely.
if you want to become one of my friends, you can go to the Patreon, or completely for free, you can leave a review on Apple. And even if you don't want to become my friend, don't you want to see another human smile?
Exactly. So consider leaving a review on Apple. It really helps out the show. It's a free way to do it. And you'll be one step closer to being a real friend of ours.
Exactly. Now with that, back to the episode.
Sort of speaking of being on at a bad point culturally, politically, socially, we got to take a trip to Idaho.
Well, speaking of making something discourse that shouldn't be discourse.
Exactly. We gotta take a trip to Idaho. Idaho, never a place that I want to visit.
Nope.
We had a listener DM us on Patreon last week. And she saw just the most insane Cybertruck. I don't know if you got a chance to look at the images, but this bitch looked crazy. It was. I mean, imagine seeing a Cybertruck in Idaho with the decals associated.
Already just like seeing Cybertruck in Idaho is a crazy thought.
I saw one on my way here. I was pissed.
For real?
Yeah.
Damn, that's right. What were the decals on it?
Oh, the one I saw was just a blank Cybertruck.
No, the decals on this one in Idaho.
Oh, I don't even know if I could describe it. I'll have to show you after, but it was wild. It was absolutely wicked. But anyway, we're talking about Idaho. And as we talk about Idaho, I hope all of you will start to hate it even more.
Yeah.
Because we got a crazy story we got to talk about here. So, an Idaho Republican representative, Heather Scott, just introduced a draft memorial urging the Supreme Court to reconsider its ruling on Obergefell v. Hodges. Of course, the decision legalizing gay marriage nationwide. So
where the fuck are we? What are we doing? Like,
this was 10 years ago.
10 years ago. A very like popular thing too. Like,
extremely popular nowadays.
Extremely popular.
Yeah.
There's obviously a lot of loud conservatives that are like, oh yeah, gay marriage, blah blah blah. I don't fuck with gay people. But most of the median voter supports gay marriage. If the median voter is behind on an issue, we shouldn't enter it in the political discourse.
Yeah. It's like 65% of the country is in support of gay marriage.
That's surprisingly
an overwhelming majority.
That's honestly kind of insane that it's that low.
I have a quote here from Newsweek that says, quote, quote, the committee notes describe the proposed resolution to reaffirm the state's authority to regulate marriage. It encourages the Supreme Court to revisit Obergefell v. Hodges and request reconsideration, and the purpose is to restore federalism. That's the stated purpose. Which,
State's rats.
You know, it's all crazy, but the last bit of federalism is crazy to me, especially because it's like the Supreme Court issuing a ruling, that's federalism.
Yeah.
That's the federal government.
Like federalism, yes, it's states like regulating themselves too, but the other key portion of that is that the federal government is better than you.
Mm-hmm.
The federal government governs you.
Yeah, exactly.
And you have to listen to
it's
them.
like dual sovereignty and shit like that. Yeah. Like if the Supreme Court's a part of the federal government and they issued a ruling. So I don't know if this memorial will ever see the light of day. It's not a piece of legislation. It's basically just a letter that this individual, this Republican, wants to see passed by the state legislature. But it's sort of like one step on however many hundreds of steps it will take to eventually overturn gay marriage in the Supreme Court, right?
It's
setting the stage. Yeah.
This is how things start.
It's setting the stage. Who knows if this will actually go anywhere? Who knows if it'll make it to the Supreme Court? But I think it's just it's one step on however many hundreds it'll take. And we will, I think, look back one day and think like, oh well, yeah, we were sort of on the money.
Yeah.
In a bad way.
In a bad way, yep. Yeah. Once again, making predictions only for the bad things to happen.
Yeah. And you should recall back in 2022 when folks like us were saying, abortion rights just got overturned at a national level with the Dobbs v. Jackson decision. We would bet that Obergefell is coming up next at some point, and all the conservatives were like, oh, no, we're not coming for gay marriage. Why would we come for gay marriage?
They acted like we were fucking insane. Conservatives, in our comments, conservatives like in media, motherfuckers like Charlie Kirk acted like people like us were insane for calling out the idea that they're going to come for sodomy laws, come for gay marriage, come for the interracial marriage even. Yeah. When Clarence Thomas himself said that these things are up for consideration in his concurring opinion for the Dobbs v. Jackson decision.
And so, like, here we are, right? Like, it's unsurprising. We knew it would get here. I will remind you that Obergefell v. Hodges, I think in 2015, was decided 5-4. So it was a close decision.
And the Supreme Court now is totally different than it was back then?
Yeah, the Supreme Court is now 6-3 conservative supermajority. It was more evenly split back then. So I would imagine it's not looking good, folks. Of course, the ability to marry will hopefully be safe for everybody in blue states where these things have sort of been codified. But in a place like Idaho, where there, I think, is what's called a trigger ban still on the books for a ban of gay marriage, that'll go back into effect if Obergefell's ever overturned. So I don't even know what to say at this point. Get out if you can, you know?
Damn.
If you've got the money and resources to do so, go somewhere better.
What an insane time we live in. Maybe we'll start getting bounty hunter bills for roommates. You know what I mean?
Yeah, honestly, wouldn't even be surprised. I mean, we're getting what was the other type of bounty hunter bill we got? We got the abortion one, of course. Was it about immigrants? Was it about immigrants?
We just covered it like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I can't remember.
It's like losing my. Was it trans? Trans bathroom? No. Wait.
Yeah, yes, no, it was
trans
in
bathrooms.
Ohio. Yeah. So, looking bad, folks.
Yeah, we got bathroom bills back in like a big way. We got gay marriage gone in a big way, maybe possibly down the road.
Yeah.
It's a time.
Let's move on though to some more bad news.
Yeah.
It's just bad news after bad news. We're hitting you guys with the bad news this week, I swear. We're talking California. So early last week, a brush fire started in the Palisades, which quickly erupted into a much larger wildfire. There's a couple different sources of wildfires at this point. Some people have said that a couple of them were started by electric fires, others by just naturally occurring wildfires because, California moment. I'm not going to go through each of them and discuss why each of them started. The more important piece is that they're raging now, and hundreds of thousands of people have lost or have had to move out. I think 20,000 buildings have burned down at this point.
Lives just altered like crazy.
Inexorably, yeah. It's real bad. So since last Tuesday, tens of thousands of acres of land have been burned. Tens of thousands of buildings have been destroyed or partially burned, as I said. Hundreds of thousands of people have had to leave their homes in some capacity. And as of Saturday, according to NBC, 16 people have been confirmed dead from these wildfires. Really unlike anything that we've seen. And if you need a sort of dollar amount to conceptualize how bad this is.
Well, that's what makes my mind go.
Of course. JP Morgan predicts that the fires have already caused $20 billion worth of damage, and that'll obviously continue to climb. They said the maximum prediction they gave was $50 billion, which immediately makes it the most expensive wildfire in U.S. history, I believe, at least in California history. But
that's crazy.
Yeah, it is. very, very, very bad. Now, an important note here that I'm ending at the top, just to sort of preempt any leftists in our audience. It's not just rich people losing their homes.
Yeah, that's been damn near the most annoying discourse to come out of this. Like a lot of people just like pointing at like a rich person they don't like and being like, "Oh yeah, haha, it's just rich people. They can just buy a new house."
Like, yeah, I'm not gonna weep for Mel Gibson losing his house. You know what I mean? Lots of Nazi memorabilia lost in that fire. Yeah. But there are also a lot of just like average, typical Californians losing their homes or being forced to leave.
There's
here.
a lot of poor people that live in LA.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of poor people that live in the area. Like it's just bad.
It's a natural disaster. So a lot of people are going to be hurt. No reason to celebrate, of course. Now, again, I said there's a lot of potential causes. From what I'm seeing, it's just dry conditions because California
drought. Yeah. Exacerbated by what? By what?
Yeah, climate change, of course. And then strong winds that have sent to embers sort of all over the place. I was actually listening to the Pod Save America episode with Gavin Newsom, which they fucking put their cereal ads in, by the way. I'm listening to an emergency podcast with the governor of the state that they live in, and then I hear, "You should consider buying Magic Spoon."
That's fucking hilarious.
I was a little annoyed listening to that, but Gavin Newsom was saying that he was like visiting different sites during these wildfires, and he saw like an ember fly from a tree onto a house, and within like a minute, the house was just completely on fire.
Dude, I saw people saying that like the fire is traveling 4 football fields a minute.
Yeah,
uniquely
fast.
American version of measurement, but like I get it. Like, it made sense to me.
Yeah, it's not as fast as Jahmyr Gibbs, but we get the point. So it's bad. If you're in LA or the surrounding area, make sure you stay safe. I don't know the status of the fires right now. I saw while reading the latest estimate from I think the LA Fire Department was that it was like 11% control.
Oh damn! I had seen like 8% containment on Friday, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, it's not going very well. So if you're in LA, if you're around LA, or if you have family in LA, I hope everybody is safe. We'll have a donation link in the description for a California-based nonprofit that is sort of donating resources and time to helping victims of these fires. But I know we have at least a couple of California listeners, LA-based listeners, so I hope you're doing all right.
I do know Joe Biden pledged for, I think, at least the first 6 months that the federal government will pay for all costs of rebuilding. Mm-hmm. So that's good. That's what the government is there for. That's why FEMA should be well-funded.
Yeah.
That's why the government should be able to do these things. That's why the federal government shouldn't be gutted.
Should note, of course, that Joe Biden asked for like an additional $12 million in FEMA's budget that Republicans did not give him.
Interesting.
So if you hear any of them try to say that like Biden's not doing enough, or
which they've been saying,
then just keep in mind that they are the ones that prevented more funding from going to a group like FEMA that deals with this kind of shit.
Yeah.
So love that.
It's interesting. I love discourse. I love discourse around natural events. So I guess we can get into the real cause of this.
Yeah, the real cause.
The real cause.
Causes. We have many to list here.
There's a lot of causes that have caused this, and it's not what you think, folks.
So obviously the devastation has been enormous. I hope you're all right if you're in California, in the area. But what's been even more depressing, at least to me, is the conspiracies that we've seen spin off of this. Yes. And by the end of this, I'm going to convince you that it's Joe Biden's fault.
Yep.
Or liberals' fault generally for conspiracies like this.
And, I'll come out here and say, last time we had, like, big California wildfires is when we got Jewish space lasers, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to say that these are somehow worse. Like, the conspiracies coming out of or just, like, the statements coming out of this one, somehow worse. And by worse, I mean better because they're more accurate.
Yeah, well, of course. Oh, that's crazy. I guess that was Marjorie Taylor Greene saying Jewish space lasers. I wonder if that was also the set of wildfires in California that were now the second most expensive in U.S. history.
Probably,
for wildfires.
Because that got a lot of coverage. But like the Jewish space lasers, that was unique because it was so just like out there. It was so, how are you an elected person? You're saying this. Of course. But this set of conspiracies, it captures the moment very well. Yeah. I'll say that.
Yeah. We had Elon Musk. Elon Musk claimed that the LA wildfires were caused by fire departments focusing too much on DEI over saving lives and homes when he was quote tweeting libs of TikTok. Very cool that the electric vehicle guy is saying nothing about climate change.
I gotta say that was my favorite. I guess that's my favorite bad thing to come out of this whole thing.
Yeah.
Is that there have been a lot of people talking about like LA Fire Department doing DEI and how they're focusing so much on diversifying the fire department that they can't fight fires.
Oh, like if you loved that one, you're gonna love what comes next.
All right, let's go.
I got 2 tweets from Matt Walsh.
No. No.
scared in anticipation of what's about to come. Matt Walsh set out to make a point here, and he doubles down by the end.
Okay.
And it's sort of along the lines of the take from Elon Musk. He said, this is the first one. Matt Walsh said, Los Angeles deliberately set out to exclude white men from becoming firefighters, and now they don't have enough firefighters to prevent their city from burning to the ground. DEI is a cancer that destroys everything it touches.
Man, like, it's beyond commentary. It's fucking beyond parody. Like, what do you fucking say that you can do two things at once? You can say, like, oh, I mean, yeah, I guess our workforce, maybe we should, when hiring, or just we should look to make sure that our workforce represents the public so that we're not doing unfair discrimination while also fighting fires.
Well, and it's like, yeah, of course, the fire department probably needs more funding.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to even contest that idea. But, like, if climate change and dry conditions have got to such a point where, like, lighting a match will burn down LA, I think it's the fault of climate change, not DEI.
And also important to know, I'm pretty sure that black guys can fight fires just as well as white guys.
Yes.
It's fucking crazy too, because it's like, I don't know exactly like how to word this, but like, remember when Charlie Kirk on his podcast called Thought Crime committed what I would say is an actual thought crime by saying that, oh, we shouldn't have black pilots because they're just like worse than white pilots?
Of course, how could I forget?
He's like, they're unqualified. I don't want an unqualified pilot coming in there. He said, I'd rather see a white guy with a square chin than make me feel more safe. Like, how does that even begin to apply to like the fire department?
I don't know.
Like, at least to be a pilot, you have to go through like years and years and years of training. To be a firefighter, you go through training and it's rigorous and it's a tough job. I'm not like taking away from that.
Competitive job.
But you strip away, like, it's a blue collar job. You strip away the usual DEI arguments of black people are dumber than white people, which I don't believe. Of course. But guys like Charlie Kirk get out there and pedal. Guys like Matt Walsh get out there and pedal. Like, man.
Like, white dudes were not being prevented from joining the LA Fire Department.
No.
It's not the case.
Never.
It's not the case. DEI programs in this sense are meant to just increase recruitment because they don't have enough people, because fire departments almost always will tell you that they are understaffed.
Yeah.
And if you can reach out to a more diverse set of applicants, you can maybe fill those staffing shortages.
Like, that recruitment looks like, okay, we're going to put money into sending firefighters out here to make people think that firefighters are cool and want to be one. We'll send them to, I don't know, fucking this black area or this Latino area, this not white area as much as we usually send to this white area.
Yeah.
Man.
There was nothing on the application that was like, oh, white name? We're not hiring this guy. You know what I mean?
We ran a systemic study and we saw that if your name is John, you will not be hired to the fucking LA Fire Department.
But he doubles down.
Okay.
And he doesn't take a race approach. He takes a gendered approach. And let's get through this. He says, only men should be firefighters. We all know this. It's a job that men are uniquely qualified to perform. There are few women on the face of the earth who can carry a full-grown man to safety. LA set out to deliberately reduce the number of male firefighters, a suicidal policy.
Where? Source, please.
I don't know.
Where, like, this is the same as Pete Hegseth going, women cannot be in combat roles in the military.
Yeah.
And it blows my mind that fuckheads genuinely believe this shit. Like,
goes crazy if you're stupid.
I'm saying, fuckheads genuinely see this and think, oh yeah, I bet they're lowering the standards for a woman. No, she's still got to fucking run up the 15 flights of stairs in training. She's still, if a woman is joining the fire department, she's still gonna have to prove that she can lift just as fucking much as the dude.
Yeah, of course.
They're not lowering no way. Like, I don't know why people think that everywhere standards are being, black people can fucking get in to anywhere, can pass tests with lower scores than white people, or women can go become a professional fucking whatever by lifting 100 times less than a man. That's not happening.
I know, it's not. And it's like, it's a child's understanding of what a firefighter does.
Yep.
Like, a firefighter's whole job is not carry big, large guy out of a burning building. That's not all that, like, even if it was the case, let's say, that women firefighters couldn't carry the heaviest guy that's in a burning building, they could do other stuff. They could drive the fire truck. They could operate the fire hose. They could deal with the fire hydrant or whatever. Like, there's other jobs to do other than carry burning man out of building.
That's a whole nother aspect of this whole, like, just fire discourse that's been going on, is you see these videos popping off of, like, firefighters literally doing whatever they can to stop these things. I saw one of firefighters who had just, like, a bag and was dumping fucking water on the fire from, like, a bag that they were getting from the thing. And people in the comments are like, why aren't they using the fucking fire hose? Dog, look into it. The pressure, like, there's issues that are happening, right? You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Just shut. Oh my god.
Yeah, no, it's actually ridiculous. So Matt Walsh out here doubling, tripling down on his statements.
Gas.
Yeah, and he the one source I saw him use was like a video from, I don't even know if it's LAPD. I'm gonna assume it is, but wouldn't put it past him to just lie about this kind of thing, where it was a person who was obviously non-white, who was not presenting as a sort of heteronormative person, and was basically saying like, oh yeah, I can do all the jobs that like a typical firefighter would do. And it said there was some like snide comment about being able to carry like a full-grown man out of a burning building or something like that.
And that's it.
And it looks like a recruitment or a promotional video.
And that's it, because like, yeah, that person probably can do all the jobs a normal firefighter can do because they're a normal fucking firefighter, dog. Like,
yeah, it's stupid,
man.
Citing recruitment material as your source, like, come on now, man.
Man, what a fucking world we've come
Yeah,
to. What a fucking world we've come to.
But that's not nearly the end here. We got some lines from Alex Jones, and like typically I wouldn't highlight what Alex Jones is saying, because he will literally say, he will take the bottom of the barrel approach. You know what I mean? Like he, without saying the word Jewish people or the words Jewish people, he will just say like, you know, globalists, as a replacement for Jewish people, are running the world and they're doing X, Y, and Z, right? Like there's no real need to highlight Alex Jones anymore. But the reason I am is because he basically said globalists are trying to destabilize America and trigger total collapse, and that this is like an ongoing assault rather than a random wildfire. And Elon Musk said, true. He commented, true, under Alex Jones' post. Important because Elon Musk is running the government, of course.
I'm so fucking tired, man. I'm so fucking tired. Like, I gotta fight back against this for 4 fucking years. It's my job to combat this for 4 fucking years. At least when it was Biden and the Democrats, I could talk about the statements they're doing, and I can talk about how they're failing to meet the moment when it comes to how people feel about certain things. You can talk about why they need to strategize better. No, Elon, I got to talk about Elon Musk going true fucking sideways laughy face under a goddamn Alex Jones video where he says it's the Jews trying to collapse America. Yeah, of course. Man, what a country.
Yeah. We had some people noticing that Mexico and Canada are sending National Guard into like LA and the surrounding areas to help out. And of course, there's been military vehicles, and they immediately said, "Oh, look, it's an invasion," which is fun.
That's fun. Yeah, totally.
I not really much to say there.
Well, this has all been a guise by the California government, sanctuary state,
of course,
to get more immigrants to come into California.
I wouldn't be surprised if that is literally a take some people have had. There's been a lot of people linking the California wildfires to the Golden Globes, saying that California is being punished for mocking God.
That's true. That's the true one.
And, you know, look, if that is the truth, go crazy. I guess you were right about the creator of the universe. But a God that punishes like hundreds of thousands of people for one joke at an award ceremony
that they were not part of, they probably didn't even watch. They probably didn't watch any of the movies that won. I didn't fucking watch it either.
I didn't even know about it until they started connecting it to like a tragedy.
No, literally.
So that's a lot of fun. There was one tweet I saw blaming Palestinians because why not, right? Might as well throw them into the mix. But outside of the sort of conspiracies sort of dedicated to why the wildfire started, there's been a lot of discourse around looters, which local media loves to focus on.
Man, and we are the #1 local news podcast, so we got to talk about it. We got to talk about how looting is evil.
Yeah, looting is evil always, no matter what.
Yep.
And we should hyper-focus on that, even if it's like 3 people doing it during a national crisis, or I guess a statewide crisis. So that was pretty cool. There's also, again, some conspiracies around arsonists. Claiming that
I've
like
seen that too,
people were intentionally lighting whatever on fire.
Or that homeless guys are lighting people on fire. Or not people, but lighting shit on fire.
Yeah, and again, it's like, okay, sure, arson bad, I condemn.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I saw people that were trying to link this to homeless people who light fires and like garbages to stay warm, you know what I'm talking about, under like overpasses. And it's like, okay, wow, this is a uniquely California liberal take.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's like, okay, even if a homeless person intentionally or unintentionally lit a wildfire, again, if you can just like light a small campfire and then the entire city's on fire.
Yep.
It's climate change. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't a normal thing. Happening. If we're at a point where lighting any fire anywhere by accident or on purpose burns down 20,000 homes, there's something more going on here. Like, if I light a match here in Michigan, that's not going to happen.
No.
But in California, it didn't always happen like this, and now it is.
You can barely fucking find firewood in Michigan. Everything's so fucking damp.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
what I'm saying? Like, hasn't California famously been in a drought for like 10 years?
I don't know exactly.
I don't even know if it's still going on.
I know
but
it's
like,
gotten worse.
California is like uniquely like dry, especially like around here, and then the uniquely high winds going on. Like, there was a lot of factors that just combined in like a fucking statistics. You know what I'm saying? There are a lot of improbable factors that combined to make this really bad.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. And it's all exacerbated by the fact that, like, everything's kind of getting worse.
Yeah. Yeah. Wildfires have like been a problem for California for a long time, but I mean, it's January.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And things are made more dry, things are made more severe by the presence of climate change, which we've done functionally nothing to address on any kind of global level, which would be required to deal with the problem, of course. Yeah. So, not great. One good thing that sort of has happened, in I guess you could call it a silver lining, is the California government has issued a ban on home insurance cancellations.
Oh, that's good.
Which were happening almost immediately.
I saw people like a day before the fire broke out, like their fire insurance was like canceled.
Yeah. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Damn.
And it's like, of course, insurance companies evil.
Yep.
Like this shouldn't, like, insurance shouldn't really be a thing in a society where it shouldn't be a thing at all. It's always exploitative. You get the idea. But again, when the conditions are so bad that 20,000 homes can just be eviscerated over the course of a few days, you almost can't blame insurance for being like, well, we'll just go bankrupt. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it just not pay out. Because it's like,
because they don't have the money to do it. Again, the fault is climate change.
I don't fuck with like insurance like that.
Of course.
You know what I'm saying? Like bad, right?
Yeah.
But like you can make an argument to be like, yeah, it makes sense if your like individual home lights on fire, like the way that insurance works, the way that the risk pool happens, people pool in money so they can pay out to the one person unlikely who had a house fire. Private insurance cannot function when 20,000 homes are burning down.
Yeah, exactly.
Private insurance cannot function during natural disasters, as we're kind of seeing right now, and I would argue that we will see in the future as it comes time for these companies to pay out once this is finally contained, which...
Yeah, it's like home insurance is there for like if, I don't know, your house catches on fire randomly because like you left a candle burning or something. It doesn't exist if like, 100,000 people have had to relocate. Like it can't function that way. And of course, on top of that, private insurance is made to be profited off of. So there's all kinds of funky stuff going on there, but it's bad.
Again, this is why the federal government exists. Like this is when the federal government should be stepping in and covering these costs. Like that's why we pay taxes. Like oh man.
Yeah. And government doesn't have to profit off of taxes.
Exactly.
There's no profit incentive.
Insurance companies have to profit. Insurance companies will go bankrupt before they will pay you.
Oh yeah. 100%.
If they had the choice between, I don't know, being in the red for the rest of their inception or just going bankrupt and not paying out, they're buying back stock if they can, and then they're getting out of there. You know what I mean? The government, they'll just go in the hole because they have to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's good.
And that's what it should be.
That's good.
Also saw a headline that said rents are likely to balloon in LA, which like, what do you mean balloon? Already pretty high. And like, I know an economist will come in here and be like, well, supply is lower and demand's going to be higher because all these houses burn down. Yeah. It's like, well,
look at all this land we can buy.
But don't we see that there's like a negative social human impact here?
No, guys, the market will adjust.
Yeah.
This will just incentivize more companies to come in and build luxury condos in the place of these homes.
Luxury condos, shopping centers for luxury goods. Yeah, it'll be great.
Don't like half of the luxury condos that have been developed in New York within the last like X amount of years, don't they just sit vacant?
A lot of apartments do just sit vacant.
I know in California explicitly there are like high rises that are just vacant because like nobody can afford them, but companies still can just sit on the depreciating asset and sit on land because the land appreciates, man. I don't think the market's correcting itself.
And there's no vacancy tax. There's no punishment for not having anybody live in a housing unit that you own.
You can just build big, ugly building and just for the love of the game. And it's a game that not everyone else loves, man. It's a game that's not doing public good at the social contract, man.
It's real bad. Now to end off this section, I guess we can try to wrap this all together. I think this kind of conspiracism that happens when like there's a massive natural disaster, it occurs because there is no like unified understanding of why these natural disasters occur, which is of course climate change, right? They become more often, they become more severe because of the effects of climate change. But of course, political parties, both Republican and Democrat, in different ways, in the media have dropped the ball at getting the public to understand that this is the issue.
Yeah.
Republicans, because they maliciously try to tell people climate change doesn't exist because they're completely in the pocket of oil billionaires and gas billionaires that profit off of the existence of climate change and the existence of their industries. Democrats, because some of them are feckless, some of them don't try very hard, and some of them are captured by those same interests. Same with the media, of course. And when people don't have a sort of collective understanding of why things are happening, they'll try to invent reasons. They'll look for reasons, which is why we get crazy shit like, I don't know, it's the Jews doing it or something like that. Or it's DEI doing it. Yeah, like people are going to look for an explanation. And if you don't give them a good one, they're going to find one somewhere. Because the human brain needs like a way to comprehend all this terrible shit that's happening out in the world. And if you don't explain to them that it is climate change, then people are going to go somewhere else.
And it's like, I get that it's hard to message around climate change because it happens just like slow enough to where it's kind of this like background issue that you can avoid. But like, we're kind of coming to a head where every single year there is a natural disaster or multiple natural disasters that are worse than every other disaster before it.
Yes, of course, yeah.
Hurricanes are getting way worse in Florida. Fucking Florida, the hurricane insurance and whatever is going crazy because, like, it's bad. Wildfires are getting worse in California. It's barely even snowing in Michigan now. That's not a natural disaster, but that's just a personal complaint.
Yeah. We got a little bit of snow.
We got a little bit of snow, but not like we used to. Michigan winter used to be hell, and now it's just kind of okay.
We got a little bit of snow, a sort of typical snowstorm for us, but also Atlanta got a bunch of snow, which is not normal.
Like the scales are flipping in ways that it shouldn't be going on. Climate change is very much coming. It's not unnoticeable anymore.
Yeah.
It's very much kind of in your face. Things are not like they were 10, 15 years ago. There's a moment there that can be met. But I feel like ever since Democrats failed with like the Green New Deal messaging, they just gave up.
Yeah.
And again, like I'm gonna take every opportunity I can to shit on Democrats because they lost and they deserve it. Frankly, anytime they have they will try once, and if that one try is unpopular, they completely abandon it and they maybe not adopt the conservative position. If they don't adopt the conservative position, they just message about it in the background.
Well, Kamala Harris didn't even talk about climate change.
Every bit of like climate change we got from Joe Biden, even though he genuinely did like historic climate change initiatives, happened like as an addendum to another thing, or it just kind of happened like in the background. It wasn't messaged about. Nobody really kind of gave a shit. Nobody was even really aware of it except for like us.
Yeah, and it wasn't enough.
And it wasn't enough.
It wasn't nearly enough.
And then when influencers are paid to talk about how good Biden did with climate change, the PACs that are like paying them to do the ads say, hey, don't mention politics when you talk about this.
Yeah.
Don't do your thing when you talk about this. And it's like, okay, why would anybody watch this then?
And that's the kind of the point that I wanted to get to is, first of all, Democrats should have been for like decades at this point, laying the foundation for people to understand rhetorically that this is climate change. This is the effect of climate change. It's not some like secret cabal of people trying to influence American politics or whatever. But secondly, Democrats should have also been saying for a long time that this is climate change and Republicans want you to lose your home and die. Yeah. Like that is the effective, that's what Trump says about immigration.
And it's important to note that that's different from what has been happening, where every couple months they bring on one scientist to say the world is going to end in 2 years if we don't do something about this.
Yeah.
That is a very different type of messaging. That is messaging that is like so catastrophic that people can't comprehend what that means. And I mean, frankly, it's been wrong a lot of times. A lot of these estimates, these climate clocks have just kind of been wrong. The much more tangible message is you're going to lose your home. Like these natural disasters are taking over and you're gonna lose things that make your life.
Yeah. Yeah, especially important for home ownership because that's like the way you build wealth in this country.
Exactly. NIMBYs run the world.
Yeah.
NIMBYs run the fucking world. You appeal to them and you win.
And like wildfires or floods or massive storms or hurricanes, they won't discriminate based on class like every other function in this country.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like even if you are rich, like you see the Palisades, for example, a wildfire will take your home too.
Yeah.
It doesn't even matter. And so in terms of like generating political resistance to climate change, there's an opportunity there and we should be assigning blame. It can't just be like, oh, climate change is bad. It is, and we should educate people why it is. But you need like a tangible thing to latch onto. Otherwise, people just won't pay attention. So you should say, Republicans want you to die. Like that is the message.
Republicans want you to lose your house. Yes. Republicans want you to lose your home. It's not Republicans get away with going, oh, Democrats want to take away your car and make you buy an electric car. And the Democrat message is, we're going to talk about a movie that no one really liked.
Yeah.
Don't look up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, the partial issue, of course, is that to do this, Democrats would need to not be beholden to the same interests that Republicans are in some cases. Like Joe Manchin is a literal coal baron, for example.
They really should have got him on that one, man. They really should have got him on that one. Biden absolutely failed by not getting him on that.
Yeah. All they need to do is like point to, I know there had to have been at least one natural disaster in West Virginia. Something that they could point to and say like, explain how climate change is related to it and say Joe Manchin wants you to lose your home. In another example of climate change like this one. That's all you got to do. So easy, man.
Or because like the big criticism you see when like people talk about climate change is like, oh, they want us to stop with our plastic straws, but it's corporations that are really doing the polluting. Okay, Democrats, go after the corporation.
Yeah.
Then
that would be popular.
Then they got to make something different up if they want to be opposed to it. You know what I mean? If they want to be contrarian, they got to make something different up to say.
Yeah.
Go after the fucking whatever.
Yeah. And of course, the ultimate observation here is that in the end, it's going to just be cheaper to deal with climate change than to keep experiencing these massive natural disasters that are more expensive over time.
Maybe we'll see insurance companies investing in climate science so that they can avoid paying out. Maybe that's how the free market will adjust. Maybe that's how it will correct itself.
Yeah, after we're experiencing 130-degree summers in Michigan or something like that.
After the third insurance company who stepped in to just, fulfill the rubble of the last one, it goes bankrupt. Maybe the fourth one will come in its place and say, all right, we're going to leverage this and fund science.
Maybe we should make Canada the 51st state. That way I can move really far north and avoid the heat, the incoming heat.
That's true. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Avoid Death Valley temperatures.
Well, after the Great Lakes dry up, because it's, again, 145 degrees in the summer in 10 years.
Well, then we won't have the lake effect weather anymore, so it'll be more chill, I guess.
I hate commercials.
Me too.
I hate listening to them. I hate when I hear them, whether it's on TV or on podcasts.
Grr, I just can't stand commercials.
They're the worst. And the one place you can go to avoid commercials, like this one you're listening to right now, is patreon.com/headintheofficepod. Become a patron, and you get early access to our episodes, and they're all completely commercial-free. No more interruptions.
And you could be one of our friends.
And that's arguably the more important point.
And, in trying times like this, friendship is what we really need.
Friendship's really important. And you can buy your way into being a friend of ours by heading over to patreon.com/headintheofficepod. Again, early access to episodes, no commercials, access to all of our content before anyone else sees it. Become a patron.
So moving on from, things that are bad to more things that are bad.
Yeah, the impending climate disaster, the end of humanity.
We got to continue with the 2025 theme of just not being big fans of the government.
I'm not a big fan of the government.
And especially, I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, we have a new legislative session. The new Congress people have been sworn in. We have the new House. We have the new Senate. We got the new majority leaders. Fucking Johnson is speaker still. Things are ready to go and things are rolling.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Very unfortunately. We got to talk about bad things that they're going to be doing. So last week, the House passed a bill dubbed the Laken Riley Act. I'm sure you can guess what this one's about.
Immediately corny.
Immediately corny, immediately dumb, immediately bad. Why do we let conservatives have this?
Capitalizing off the death of some young girl to
literally
immense violence to immigrants.
This is just bad.
Yeah.
It's just bad and dumb, and this should not be accepted in civilized society.
Yeah. If I ever die under random circumstances, don't let the government use my name to do something insane.
Oh, literally.
Don't let that happen.
I couldn't rest.
You guys can use my name to do whatever you want. I trust you, but not the government.
You can misuse my name to do good things, but bad things,
exactly.
Man,
well, I like when good things are good, bad things are bad.
Yes.
That's damn near the Hiddo motto.
Hiddo axiom right now. That's what we've built this podcast on. But if you couldn't guess what that bill's about, I'll give you a hint. The bill passed with the support of 48 Democrats in the House and is being co-sponsored by former friend turned enemy of the show, John Fetterman, in the Senate. The man, the myth, the legend, he needs to put on a suit.
Put on a suit, brother.
Now more than ever, he needs to put on a suit with the way he's been acting and is going to be acting in the Trump administration. I think he went and met with Trump already to talk about his agenda.
Yeah, he met with Trump. He's saying that he'll work with anybody if it helps Pennsylvanians, whatever that fucking means to him nowadays.
Yep. So that's great. Pennsylvania, notably not a border state.
Pennsylvania, notably not in the Middle East, not in Israel.
Not in the Middle East, not in Israel, not a border state, not any of the things that Fetterman has been staking his legislative reputation on, but I fucking digress. With 53 conservatives in the Senate and Fetterman, there only needs to be 6 more Democrats for this bill to pass the filibuster. I'll get into the bill in a second, but before we get into the text of the bill and what this is going to do, I do want to tell you who the Democrats that are already endorsing this bill are. Now that I've told you that 53 conservatives and Fetterman are supporting it, that's already a massive indictment, right?
Yeah, and it's half this list you're about to read are people that were like, we need to get them elected to the Senate. Half the list.
So that's great.
Yeah,
that's
and the other half are people that we wanted to get elected before.
Yep, maybe one person that was in running for vice president.
Yeah.
Where the fuck are we, dude? But anyway, NBC reports that some Democrats have already come out in support of this bill outright as it is currently written, which is fucking fucking insane given what I will tell you is in the text of this bill.
Yeah.
The list includes Alyssa Slotkin,
Ugh.
Mark Kelly, Ruben Gallego, John Ossoff, and Jackie Rosen. I think we've advocated for every single one of those people except for like Jackie Rosen.
Yeah.
Because we had to.
No, Jackie Rosen was in Nevada this past
Oh
election.
my God. So
Yeah.
every single one of these people I think we've advocated for. Maybe not Mark Kelly. I think he was a senator when we started.
Yeah.
Or he had just been elected when we started doing the
Yeah.
podcast. But fuck, man.
Well, both of Arizona senators, a Georgia senator, Nevada, and our fucking
And
senator.
our senator. To be fair, we very reluctantly said, I'm going to vote for Slotkin, but I hate doing it.
Yeah, and we said as soon as she gets in, she's going to do some dumb shit.
And this is the dumb shit.
Lo and behold.
Man, where are we? What are we doing? And if you didn't want to count in your head, that means we only need one more Democrat to get this passed in its current state to get it passed in Philadelphia. That's 59 senators in support of this bill, man. And the current state of this bill is dumb and bad. And
Yes.
I can't overstate that, right? So here's what the bill would do. The aspect of the bill that's been getting like the most attention online is this provision that says the Department of Homeland Security would be required to, quote, take into custody aliens who have been charged in the United States with theft and for other purposes, end quote. What word jumps out to you there? If you're looking at the text of that bill and what it's going to do, what word is the word that's jumping out to you?
Well, theft is already crazy.
Theft is crazy. The word that's jumping out to me is charged. Charged.
Oh, yeah,
not
just charged.
convicted.
Yeah, just
if
charged.
you are just charged with a crime under this law, someone who is here illegally must be taken into ICE detention just for being formally accused of theft of $100 or more, not necessarily convicted of that theft.
Accused of theft is crazy.
Just accused.
Stop and frisk ass policy.
That's derived from the text of the bill. The text of the bill, just like formally accused, if charges are levied against you, now ICE detention, mandatory. Mandatory. And now, to be clear, the law right now, like surprisingly as it stands, allows for something similar to this. But currently under U.S. law, if you're undocumented and suspected of a crime of moral turpitude, you can be referred to ICE for removal proceedings, deportation and whatnot.
Yeah.
For some reason, theft is considered a crime of moral turpitude. I didn't know what that word was, so I looked it up, and it's wickedness.
Oh, okay.
Theft, that shit's not that wicked, dog. Like, I'm sorry, but like walking out with like fucking groceries from Walmart is not as wicked as murder is. It's not
in
so
some cases
wicked.
morally permissible.
It's not so wicked I'm making up a fake word for it. You know what I mean?
You're telling me, oh, this immigrant took labeled these bananas as regular bananas when they're organic bananas?
That's morally right.
Deportation.
That is not a crime of such significance that I'm going to use a D&D ass word to describe it. Like that's not what's happening. That's
Exactly.
ridiculous. But that's U.S. law as written. But the important distinction between what we have now and what would be the law if the Laken Riley Act passes is that ICE has discretion in who they detain, since it's estimated right now that currently they can only house around 41,000 immigrants in their detention facilities. Importantly, not everyone who is subject to removal proceedings is held in ICE detention. This makes sense. If you are to detain anyone and you have a limited space to do so, you would want to start with the most violent of offenders and not really worry about the guy who maybe jacked a TV from Walmart.
Yeah, of course.
That makes sense. But as Time, the magazine reports, this bill overrides ICE's discretion in who they detain and forces them to lock up the guy who stole the TV.
Yeah, that's crazy. Especially, considering like how we do criminal proceedings in the U.S. for American citizens.
Yep.
Not everybody is held in jail.
No.
You know what I mean? Especially not people that just like stole a little bit.
Exactly. Like if you get locked up for grand larceny, you stole $500 of shit from Target.
Yeah.
They're not keeping you in jail until your hearing.
It wasn't a violent offense.
You're gonna get let out on bond and just kind of like do your daily life until your sentencing, and then your conviction, then sentencing, and then you'll get like, I don't know, whatever is appropriate for that crime.
Yeah.
Which is only appropriate depending on like who you are. But
yeah, and if you don't show up, the charges against you increase, and that shit follows you forever.
Yep.
Like eventually they're gonna get you. So it doesn't make sense to hold everybody that does theft.
Just when you have limited space, you want to save that space to allocate for the people that absolutely need to be separated from society.
Yeah.
I think it's fine if an immigrant comes over and kills a guy that you want to hold them for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you would do if a citizen did it.
Exactly, because it's what you would do if a citizen came here. And ICE detention facilities have even more limited space than, U.S. prisons, surprisingly. You know what I'm saying? So this is just absolutely insane that they want to pass this. Jason Hauser, who served as the ICE chief of staff from 2021 to 2023, so great guy,
Evil
right?
guy.
Evil guy already against this policy. So I think that tells you everything you need to know about this policy. He told Time, quote, This bill hinders the work ICE does day to day, and if passed, you will see less individuals in detention who are violently convicted criminals than you see today. Makes sense. He further goes on to explain that by his estimates, again, ICE chief of staff for 2 years, by his estimates, this will force about 20,000 people into ICE detention, which will ultimately divert manpower from funding the actual dangerous immigrants to hyper-focusing, again, on people that steal relatively small dollar items from places like Walmart or Target. I'd like to add that Walmart and Target already have theft built in their budget.
Yeah.
These people do not need to be mandatorily detained in ICE detention facilities.
Well, and on top of that, if you steal bread, eggs, and milk under a Trump economy, that's $100.
Exactly, 100%.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it doesn't make sense.
We're all going to be doing it.
All of us are going to be locked up.
Exactly. Just kidding. I condemn theft of all forms.
Well, actually, we won't be locked up in the same way because we're not immigrants. This is just an anti-immigrant bill.
That's just,
you know what I mean?
This is just the deport anyone accused of a crime bill. Any brown person accused of a crime bill that just happens to not have papers.
Yeah, and you get a couple of organic bananas. You get some bread. You get some eggs. You get some milk. You're going to jail if you're an immigrant.
It's fucked up.
Yeah,
it's actually fucked up, right? So it's like this bill also then goes on to create, if we're adding 20,000 new people that mandatory, they have to be detained by law. That's creating a massive budget burden on agencies responsible for immigration enforcement, as they're simply just going to need more money to carry out this mandate.
And this isn't again, it's not for a conviction, it's for an accusation of doing theft.
Yes.
Yeah.
Crazy.
All you got to do is be accused, and you're in jail for it.
Crazy.
Or you're held in what is functionally a concentration camp.
Love that.
Yeah, maybe like a step above like a Nazi concentration camp, but functionally an overflow facility, detention center, whatever you want to call it. It's the same thing.
It's just like, why are we here?
Yeah.
And why are Democrats like, oh yeah, that shit rocks, actually?
Yeah, I guarantee you, some Democrats think like, oh, we're seen as too progressive, too liberal, too radical on the border, so this will help us repair our image.
Yeah.
When it won't. It won't do anything. Come time for the next elections, because I know that's probably what Ossoff is thinking about. Come time for your election in 2 years, it's not going to matter. It's going to be a whole different set of issues in 2026.
Yeah.
No one's going to remember.
Even as it stands from like U.S. law right now, where, if you get caught shoplifting as an undocumented immigrant, you get subject to removal proceedings. That's more so like derivative of the fact that you're like an undocumented immigrant. So yes, you will be going through removal proceedings just to do the thing.
Yeah.
That is so much different than, we're throwing you in fucking jail, buddy. We're throwing you in jail and you may be removed before you even have your day in court.
It's draconian, yeah. It's just needlessly harmful, yeah.
So that's great. Time also goes on to report that this provision of the bill will have consequences for legal immigrants, as visa holders are subject to similar restrictions. Under the bill, you become inadmissible to the United States if you are arrested for or admit to something like shoplifting. Again, it's the arrested for that is crazy here.
Yeah.
So we can just accuse like any brown person with an accent of a crime and they become inadmissible to the United States?
Yeah, and of course, if you levy that criticism at someone who's in support of the bill, they'll say like, oh, well, it's not going to work that way, of course. But it will, right? There's nothing to stop it from working that way.
Textually, it works that way, too. It's not even hidden behind, like, I don't know, innuendo or layers of, like, legalese. It's just as the text of the bill is as written, shit, you get charged with it, you're fucked, dog.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
I love the Republicans, and I love just the spineless Democrats. You know what I mean? This bill, when it passed the House and went to the Senate, it got voted like 84 to whatever the remaining margin is to be allowed to like come to the floor.
Yeah.
Chuck Schumer goes on to say, well, it's got some merits. It's like, it's bad legislation, but not because it's immoral. It's bad legislation because it's functionally like written weird. It's not well-written legislation, so we need to debate its merits on the floor.
Yeah, I think it was only, 9 Democrats that voted against it being brought to the floor?
Yeah.
One of which I think was Bernie Sanders.
Gotta
so
be.
8?
Yeah.
8 Democrats? Like, what are we doing?
What the fuck?
Completely conceding.
What the fuck is happening? I don't understand. But another seriously concerning aspect of the bill that hasn't gotten as much of like the airwaves as the obviously just aesthetically aggressive portions of it is the aspect that will allow U.S. attorney generals to sue the federal government if they believe the Department of Homeland Security was not enforcing the full scope of the bill's mandates that certain immigrants be detained.
What we're just empowering attorney generals around the country to do that? Why?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Fucking exactly.
We're going to let you guys sue us if we don't do it.
Even though it is the federal government's responsibility to oversee like the border and immigration and shit, why don't we give some of that power to the states? To attorney generals, not even states, to attorney generals.
Yeah, this is this provision at the very least, because I know Democrats don't really care about immigrants that much.
Yep.
This provision, at least, they should be wary of, because it's like when you gain power again eventually, because there's going to be another Democratic president eventually, you should not be opening yourself up to litigation for your Department of Homeland Security because you're not doing enough to kill immigrants that did theft or maybe did theft.
It's insane. And it's like, essentially, if a federal immigration judge goes on to rule that an immigrant can be released back into the country despite committing an offense like fucking shoplifting, which is normal, which is something that would happen because, shoplifting is not genuinely of moral turpitude.
Yeah.
An attorney general can sue the federal government and say that the government is not enforcing the law in its full scope because its full scope, says that you should do these things.
Yeah.
That's insane. To say that laws should always be, it's an insane precedent to say that every law must be totally enforced in its totality. Mm-hmm. That doesn't happen. That's not realistic. That's not how the fucking law works, and that's not how the enforcement of the law works.
Yeah.
Any agent of the executive fucking administration has some discretion in how they go about enforcing the laws. That's how you have to do things as a functioning society. Cops do not pull over every single person they catch speeding on I-75.
Right.
They don't do it. To expect them to do that, which is what the law says they should do, is absolutely ridiculous. It would put a massive burden on police fucking agencies across the country, police departments across the country. It's damn near physically impossible to do. And even when they do pull people over, they do not give every single person they pull over for speeding a ticket.
Yeah.
Because it's not fucking worth it to be doing that. It ends up being a drain on the courts. If everybody that got pulled over for speeding got a ticket, courts would be fucking slammed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a reasonable, limit to the law and how the law should be enforced.
Exactly.
Discretion is important in enforcement, no matter where you go, no matter what you think. It's fucking insane to think it isn't.
It's an enormous burden, and they're just going to use it as a justification to expand ICE and expand immigration funding, or I guess border funding.
Yeah.
Right? They're going to say, ICE detention facilities that are overflowing now because of this new law, we'll build a bunch of new ones, and we'll make them even more dangerous and terrible to live in than the other ones, so we can contain all these new thousands of people that have to be held because we've accused them of crimes that we don't know if they actually committed or not.
We're also setting a precedent that fucking attorney generals across the country can look at niche federal laws that aren't really enforced because we don't really necessarily maybe need them anymore, or the executive agency is just administering discretion while they are still fulfilling their duty of enforcing the law.
Yeah.
They're just exhibiting discretion to say, no, I personally think you aren't fulfilling this. I'm going to fucking sue you.
That's so great. Why do this country sucks so fucking bad? I don't know in what world Democrats would be cool with this. Why would we have, because it's not going to be enforced against Donald Trump. Any attorney general in whatever state is not going to take the time to sue Donald Trump because he's not enforcing an anti-immigration law to its fullest extent. First of all, because he will enforce it to its fullest extent. Second of all, because the attorney generals that would care about it aren't going to go against Donald Trump. This is explicitly an anti-Democrat policy.
Eventually Democrats will get power back again, and they're going to, exercise discretion like they should, and even Trump himself will do.
Yeah.
And attorney generals across the country are going to be allowed to sue him.
They'll use it against President Newsom or whoever wins next.
Oh, God, fuck. Please, man. No, fuck.
President Newsom with his communications team from Pod Save America.
It's goddamn. No, it keeps getting worse.
Speaking it into existence right now.
After they rehire Jen O'Malley Dillon. Oh, man. Oh, goodness gracious. That's where we're going as a country, either way. Yeah. But I think when I was reading CNN, it's important to note that this law only goes one way, and that's that you can only, say the example of a federal immigration judge rules that you can release this immigrant back into the country while they wait for their trial because they didn't do anything dangerous. You can only sue a judge who releases someone back into the country and say that that's bad. You can't sue a judge who says, nah, this motherfucker is staying locked up even though he didn't do anything.
Yeah.
It's only negative.
Yeah, you can't do it for overreach, but you can do it if they don't go far enough.
Yeah, you can do it. Yep. Yeah. If you perceive they don't go far enough. Yeah.
That's so
fucked
ridiculous.
Up.
If only for the time it takes to deal with litigation alone, that's ridiculous. Not even mentioning any consequences for the federal government after a ruling is decided.
And that's an important part of just immigration proceedings that people don't talk about unless they're actually trying to follow the issue, is that a big reason why immigration is so confusing and bungled and kind of fucked up right now. And a big reason why people are staying in the country for 10 years when they cross the border, even though they've been caught and released, if you want to use that terminology, is because the courts are so overwhelmed.
Of course, yeah.
So we want to just overwhelm the courts more. And that kind of gets me into this next point, that provisions like this and just the ones that force ICE to detain undocumented immigrants who are accused of things like, again, shoplifting, only exist so that conservatives and now liberals can be aesthetically tough on crime without any care for the fact that they're making it harder for the people who enforce our laws to actually do their jobs in a way that materially and meaningfully serves the public.
Yeah, yeah. And
Like-
this isn't even us being on the side of that law enforcement.
No.
It's just like explicitly that's what they're doing.
Like, honestly, even like acting like on the side of law enforcement, you can fucking get the violent immigrants and detain them. It is actively stopping ICE from detaining the violent immigrants that conservatives love to message about. If they have to focus on the shoplifters, if they have to fucking go around and patrol every goddamn Walmart in the country to make sure that a Mexican isn't fucking stealing some bullshit,
Yeah.
then they're not going to catch an actual fucking MS-13 gang member that comes over.
Yeah, it's like how cops are not in favor of bathroom bills oftentimes because it's like, how do we enforce that? It just adds unnecessary burden onto what we already do. And you don't got to be pro-police to say that. It's just true.
Exactly. It's just making it harder for cops to do the actual, like, little things they do right. Like, you're making policing worse under a guise that you're making policing better. And it's just going to make the country a worse place.
Yeah.
I'm sick of it. And it's the cruelty is the point. The awful aesthetics are the point so often as it is with these conservative pieces of legislation. And it is so fucking frustrating to see Democrats just fall in line and be like, yeah, this has merit.
Yeah. And it's only if they're charged as doing theft of over $100 or more. Charged.
The fuck? Like,
You could charge anyone with anything. You know what I mean? Like,
you can
that's
get
crazy.
any DA to go through fucking anyone in the country and be like, oh, yeah, fucking bullshit.
Yeah, you can charge them with anything. The case can eventually get thrown out, but it doesn't change the fact that they were imprisoned after they were charged with something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like what's an immigrant going to have to, like, I know there's methods, legal methods through which you can fight back against, like, what are they called? Like slap suits or whatever?
Yeah, but
Just
like an
designed
immigrant,
to intimidate you.
an immigrant doesn't even have the right to a fair trial, apparently.
Well, of course. And an immigrant doesn't have the legal tools or the sort of monetary tools to fight back against cases like that. So what the fuck are they supposed to do?
Just get shit on, I guess.
Yeah, it's just
so that Trump can hit his fake number that he made up. Like, man, like, why are we even giving Trump the dub?
Yeah.
Like, if Democrats were a real party, they would be doing massive obstruction right now.
Oh my
If
God.
Democrats were a real party, not a single fucking bill would pass.
Never.
And I'd be fine with that.
Every Democrat would be like, we're voting on every line item individually for the budget.
That's what conservatives do.
Yeah.
Man, conservatives, when they lose, when they try to do legislation that's unpopular or they get their legislation overturned that is unpopular, they try every single avenue to continue doing the morally apprehensible thing. When the fucking Civil Rights Act passed, they did everything they fucking could to keep like black and white people separate.
Yeah.
They did everything they could to further disenfranchise black people and minorities in this country. Democrats, they would have just rolled over.
Yeah.
And conservatives should have rolled over because that was morally bad, but why can't people ever fight for the good things? Why do they only fight for the bad things?
I don't fucking get it. It's not even like this is one of the things of like a large moneyed interest behind the Democratic Party in the way that like that would explain why they don't fight that hard against climate change.
Yeah.
This is just like an easy dub that they could get. And they don't do it.
It's crazy. And it's like another standout provision from the Laken Riley Act will allow states to determine just carte blanche who we let into the country, right? Should this law be passed in its current state attorney generals like Ken, I would defend sodomy laws if they were on the books, Paxton, could seek court orders in federal courts that would force the State Department to stop issuing visas to countries that refuse to accept citizens that we're trying to deport. This would mean that Ken Paxton himself could initiate a ban on visas issued to skilled workers from China.
What the
Because China doesn't accept people that we Chinese nationals that we deport.
That's insane.
Why would that ever be allowed? Why does Alyssa Slotkin support this as written?
I have no idea.
This is not a power that state attorney generals should have.
Why would they be able to stop us, the State Department, from issuing visas? That is insane.
Literally.
That is an insane amount of power in the hands of states.
And that's not what I'm saying. That's what outlets like CNN and NBC and Time are saying.
Yeah.
That's what they're reporting on because that's what the text of the bill says.
Yeah. And it's just if the countries we're trying to deport them to don't take them back is basically what the bill says.
So like Venezuela, we have a tumultuous relationship with them. They don't accept Venezuelan immigrants. So that means that Ken Paxton can lobby for if any visas to Venezuelan immigrants should be fucking banned.
That's crazy.
This can like genuinely have crazy economic implications too, and it just makes our relationships with the world worse.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like most of our immigration comes from, or I guess I don't know explicitly the visa program, but I would guess a lot of it's from like neighboring countries. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like countries in Latin and South America. And so if you're going to say like, oh, we're trying to deport this person back to like Honduras or whatever, we're not accepting any more Honduran immigrants through the visa program. Why?
Why can Ken Paxton make that decision?
Because of this like one immigrant you're trying to deport, you're going to punish all the, I don't know, however many thousands could come over and contribute to the country?
Yep.
And maybe eventually become citizens, if that's even an option anymore.
For no reason. Like, state attorney general shouldn't have this power. No. Like, this is not how the founders envisioned it, guys. I'm adopting that rhetoric in 2025. I'm a founder head in 2025. Like,
James Madison wrote in Federalist whatever.
In the fucking 200 essays that Alexander Hamilton wrote or some fucking bullshit, he did not say this. He did not envision this. It's crazy.
Hamilton was an immigrant.
Hamilton was an immigrant, famously.
Yeah.
But like broadly, as CNN puts it, this new bill seeks to overturn like a 2023 SCOTUS precedent that ruled Texas and Louisiana did not have standing to challenge the Biden administration's changes to government deportation priorities by giving states standing to sue over such shifts in homeland security policy. They'd also be allowed to challenge in federal court the decisions of immigration judges who are under the purview of the U.S. Attorney General and Justice Department to release individual immigrants from detention. This is all just a reaction because fucking Ken Paxton couldn't tell Biden what to do when it came to Biden trying to prioritize different things for how he was going to do immigration.
That's crazy. Even like knowing the context, Democrats should be even more against it.
Exactly.
They did that to your guy.
Literally. And this is already operating under the false pretense that Biden wasn't doing everything he could to stop immigrants from coming over.
Yeah. Biden was already being plenty brutal. That's oh my God, bro. Look what they did to my liberal party, dog.
I'm saying, man, what happened to fucking, I was going to say what happened to FDR, but that's, I don't know. It's very like, he did some bad things too when it came to people who aren't white, but
like, why can't we be a little bit better? You know what I mean?
We don't have to do this. We don't have to do this. And I mean, kind of exemplifying all this, like in an effort to defend Senate Dems, consideration and willingness to work with the GOP on this bill, an anonymous Democrat aide told NBC, quote, "This is where voters continue to move and good elected officials continue to listen to them."
No way.
Then again, quote, "I think for a long time, Democrats have let the advocacy groups push them to the left on immigration and border security issues, pushing them to oppose even popular immigration/border security reforms because it could lead to any deportation. The past election showed that that's not where the majority of Americans are at, and the Dems need to be clear they are against criminals, even if that means deporting an undocumented immigrant who committed a crime. Very importantly, this bill is not just deporting people who commit crimes.
Welcome back, Bill Clinton.
It's people who are accused of committing crimes. Yeah. Welcome back, 2000 Democrat Party. When I did that segment like a month or two ago, talking about how like actually, it was like 20 years since Bill Clinton where we had been working very hard to move public sentiment on immigration. It was working. And that we're just returning to that. I didn't know how right I'd be. I genuinely didn't know how right that retrospective would be. But man, what a wonderfully nuanced take from the people who are definitely learning the correct lessons from the election loss.
What fucking advocacy groups have pushed the Democrats too far left on immigration?
What, the fucking ACLU in a questionnaire that nobody fucking pays attention? Nobody knows what the ACLU is. Nobody knows what advocacy groups are, especially about immigration, dog. Like, and like especially when we covered this, we look at exit polling from the 2024 election, and we see that a pathway to citizenship was more popular than deportations.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And it's like Democrats in 2020 or during the first Trump administration, Trump administration, were rhetorically in favor of things like DACA and Dreamers and stuff like that. But what did they actually do?
Nothing.
Like, in what border reforms or immigration reforms did they reject that would have been popular to a massive amount of voters? What was even ever on the table?
Nothing.
Like, what are we talking about?
Democrats gave up.
Yeah.
They just ceded to pressure from Fox News when they have an entire fucking base.
Yeah, wait, how can you even make this argument when Biden offered a conservative border bill?
Yep.
Like for the last year, leading up to the election, he offered them a conservative border bill after Greg Abbott violated federalism.
And even before that, Biden continued Trump policies.
Yeah.
Well into his own term, Biden continued Trump-era fucking immigration restrictions. Like,
At times outpacing his deportation numbers.
It does not make sense for them to. The voters are not moving this way. Like, I'm sorry, but like I feel like people aren't really moving this way. And if they are, like the voters that have moved are moving because you are offering what? No counter messaging.
Yes.
What a fucking surprise. What a surprise.
Course.
I have not heard a single pro-immigration sentiment that doesn't come from like content creators breaking down the stats.
It's just us, man.
And
It's
you
just
don't even
us.
have to do the fucking shitty graphs that you put up that you need a master's degree to understand. You can just say we need a pathway to citizenship.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that in years.
We need to make it easier to immigrate here. We need a pathway to citizenship. And like, yeah, sure, Democrats can say some shit like we need to get criminals out if they try to come into the country.
Which is fine.
Nobody's going to protest that at all.
Like, you just gotta not paint every single person that comes across the border as a criminal.
Yeah.
That's it.
Like, I don't know what the fuck this person's talking about when Biden ran conservative on immigration in 2024, then Kamala Harris ran conservative on immigration. Every single Democratic senator or every high-profile race, the Democrat was running conservative on immigration. None of them were advocating for, like, the abolition of borders.
And it's also crazy, like, the one time you guys beat Trump, out of 3 times, the one time you guys beat Trump was when you ran a progressive campaign. Or at least a mildly progressive campaign.
More progressive than this one, yeah.
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 Like,
probably when the advocacy groups had maximum influence.
Exactly. When the fucking ACLU was popping off with their questionnaires and getting Kamala Harris on being too woke. That's when we fucking beat Trump, people. Like, as soon as we moved away from that, because they wanted to.
Yeah.
Like, what kind of fucking wicked polling are they doing, man? Like, this got to be a Fetterman aid.
Gotta be.
It's got to be a Fetterman aid.
Or it's just David Plouffe. It's just David Plouffe out here sitting in the works, just hiding in the bushes, waiting for someone to come ask him a question. Then he jumps out and says, "Oh, we got to be more conservative." Then we could have won the election if only we were more conservative. If we would have spent more time with Liz Cheney.
I understand that we were super conservative on this issue. That didn't even end up being the top issue for most voters. But if we could have just done it more.
If we completely abandon immigrants even more than we already have, then maybe we can win an election in the future.
Like
I wish I could vote for an opposition party. You know what I mean, man?
Yeah.
Like, third parties can't win. I get it. It's a waste of your vote at the national level at the very least. But, like, goddamn.
I just, like, we've talked about it so much.
Yeah.
And every week we get a new person that learned the wrong thing.
What a bad week for politics, man. What a bad next 4 years.
So we'll follow this bill as it develops. Hopefully Democrats get some sense knocked into them and they at least take out the attorney general shit.
Yeah.
Ken Paxton should not have this power.
It should be a conviction that lands you in jail, an immigrant detention jail.
Yeah.
Not just a charge, because holy moly.
Like, you should have to be convicted or do something heinous to be for it to be law that you have to be detained.
Yeah, because it's just like it's stop and frisk-esque. You know what I mean? It's just like, oh, we suspect you of doing this, so therefore we're gonna make you submit to police authority. Except it's immigrants, so we care about them less.
Just like fucking buzzsaw buoys and razor wire on the Rio Grande, the cruelty is the point of these things. Like, it's what does this staffer mean when they say, "Oh, what Democrats can't say that they're against criminals now"? Bitch, Democrats have been saying they're against criminals for like years. Actually, famously, Democrats have pivoted to try and be tough on crime again.
Yeah, she ran as a cop.
And it didn't work.
It didn't work.
I've prosecuted, I don't even remember
Transnational
the fucking line. Guns, drugs, and human traffickers. Man, she lost. She lost. I don't want to hear from her again.
She lost pretty bigly, too. Big enough.
Big enough, yeah.
Big enough. Yeah, it's bad. Yeah, I don't really know what the point of this is for Democrats because, like, okay, we need to be seen as more conservative. You can almost see what they're trying to do, even though it's wrong and bad.
Yeah.
We need to be seen as more conservative on the border. That will help us with voters. It won't. That's stupid, but I see what the point they're trying to make. People are just going to say this is a dub for Trump. If he gets into office and this is the first thing he signs, which could be, they're just going to say, oh, Trump gets into office and immediately secures the border.
They're going to say, oh, Democrats couldn't get it done. Trump got it done.
Yep.
Because that is the level of attention to politics that the median voter gives.
Well, and it's like, it's a Republican Congress, Republican president.
Yeah.
It's not even entirely wrong to say that Trump got the deal done because, like, that's what's happening.
Like, Trump...
And I guarantee you, they will reintroduce a bill that is almost identical to the Biden bill, the Biden immigration bill, and Democrats will vote for it, and they'll get on their high horse and say, well, I would have voted for this a year ago.
They said, I did vote for this a year ago, and conservatives didn't, but Trump said no. Well, fucking Trump gets the credit now. He fucking won.
And they'll feel good about it, but then, of course, Trump will get to say, I secured the border when Biden couldn't. The Democrats couldn't do it. I saved the country. It doesn't matter. And it's
Truth doesn't matter. Like,
and it's bad and wrong. It's bad and wrong.
Do obstruction.
Yeah.
Like if Democrats were a real party, they would not fucking vote for anything for the border. They would open the border if they could. They would go around to their fucking state. They would go to Arizona and be like, you better let anybody in that wants to come in.
Mm-hmm.
And they'd say, oh my God, look at the problem under Trump. It's crazy. They'd be doing false flags if they were a real party.
They'd be doing Watergate level scandals.
Exactly. They would be busing immigrants from fucking Mexico City to Texas and saying, oh my God, Texas is being overrun right now. Looks like your bus stop buoys aren't working. They'd be doing crazy shit.
That's not even that crazy because like that's literally what Greg Abbott and DeSantis
They let them do it.
Literally.
They let them drop immigrants off in the middle of Martha's Vineyard and let them get the numb on that. We should be dropping immigrants off in the heart of fucking Houston. Mm-hmm. We should be busing everybody to Houston. No, we should be dropping immigrants off in Springfield, Ohio, across the country.
They should be fucking paragliding in
exactly.
to El Paso.
Absolutely. We should be dropping them into like Missouri. Mm-hmm. We should be dropping immigrants into Idaho, just dropping them off in the fucking town square, man. Oh my God.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's like they literally did that. They literally did that. Man, my Democratic Party, look at them. They're in fucking shambles right now.
Shayla, what happened to my Democratic Party, man?
Man, what a fucking shame. What a bad week for politics.
Yeah.
It's not great. In other news, Trump got sentenced and it's 0 days in prison.
It's a historic sentence of you're the president now, so it's okay.
Yeah, it was for the hush money case with Stormy Daniels and all that. He used campaign funds to pay somebody off, marked it down as a legal expense and so on. Very illegal thing that you can't do. He got convicted by a jury of his peers, and then the judge basically said, well, you're about to be the president, so I can't do anything.
Literally.
Which, like, yeah, that's what the Supreme Court said. Can't blame the judge, I guess. But I love to see some Democrats and like MSNBC, some of the liberal media being like, this is still a win for the rule of law. How?
He's the president, dog.
He's literally
But
the
he's
president.
a convicted felon. He's the president.
It doesn't matter.
He's a president. He won, actually.
Yeah. So, and he's never going to pay for the crimes that he's committed.
Yeah, clear. Your messaging didn't work.
It's more likely that he dies in office. Like literally more like nothing's going to happen to him.
And now it's not even like you have that like idea that maybe when he gets out of office, he'll have to serve time because, you know, it doesn't matter.
See, and I was always worried about like other leftists being the smuggest people in the concentration camp.
Yep.
But now I feel like it's going to be the liberals are going to be the smug ones.
Oh, absolutely. And we already have it. We already have it when they're going to pass the border bill and they're going to say, well, we did that.
We're all going to be facing the wall together and they're going to be like, well, if we would have been more conservative on immigration. And we're all going to fall into the pit.
Well, we set aside petty politics so that we could do what's best for the nation. Mm-hmm. And then I see black and I don't comprehend anything ever again, and that's it.
I always thought it was going to be the leftists being the smug ones, but I think I might have been wrong in my assessment.
I'm going to hear shots just getting closer and closer and closer as the Chuck Schumer's next to me, and he's like, well, you know, the petty politics don't matter when it's about the future of the country.
Chuck Schumer's going to say, we could have picked up those voters in the suburbs. We could have done it.
You don't understand. John Thune told me he'd work with me so that we can, you know, bring debate and everyone's voice could be heard. And in the middle of him saying that, I goes black and I don't hear anything ever again. Special thanks to the people who support the show on Patreon.
Oh, TikTok's going away too. I don't know if we fully talked about that, but
TikTok's going away. Yeah, we mentioned that. TikTok says they're just going black when it happens. I don't know if that means the app doesn't work on January 19th, but if it's not that very soon after January 19th, the act will just be so buggy it doesn't work anymore. Mm-hmm. So that's cool. People, you can maybe get a VPN, but like not enough people would get a VPN for it to matter. The creators you follow are going to stop posting.
It's literally Joe Biden's last act of government is banning TikTok. Or I guess the ban going into effect will be his last act as president.
And like, that was a Trump thing.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't need to do that.
He didn't need to do that.
I would argue that they wouldn't even care about that should Trump have not got on there and started saying we need to ban TikTok. Mm-hmm. Like, what are you doing,
and it's like Biden's government is doing a thing that directly helps someone like Mark Zuckerberg, who runs, you know, the other massive social media companies.
Who's saying that it's okay to call people gay and gay people weird now.
Zuck just firmly switched up politically.
Yep.
Not even like that much of a switch up, but it's enough to be like, oh, he's on Trump's side now. Uh-huh. For what?
And you're giving him market share.
Yeah, literally.
Giving him market share and increasing his ad revenue. Fucking, you're making him the world's first fucking trillionaire for all I'm concerned. Like, man, like, that's crazy. In other news, Elon Musk faked being like one of the top Path of Exile 2 players in the world.
Oh, true.
That was a fun piece of news to watch because, you know, it's fucking Can't have enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I guess money doesn't buy happiness.
Yeah. Musk doing his thing, I guess.
It was funny to watch people who actually like stream the game just break down his run and be like, he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. He bought this account. This is fake.
Just like his fucking Elden Ring build. He's got no idea. Well,
just like his companies.
He remembered all the hate he got for his Elden Ring build, which was deserved, by the way. And then he couldn't bear that, so he paid somebody to give him a good account.
When people are using your build to do challenge runs on the internet, that's how you know you don't fucking know what you're doing. And then
I try to beat Radon with the Elon
with
Musk
a heavy
build.
roll. I try to beat pre-nerf Radon with the fucking heavy roll. Yeah, buddy, okay. Bro's doing the world's first all-hit run.
Yeah.
Like,
that's crazy.
and then you go and you buy a fucking account. You pay someone to boost your account so you can stream and then not know the basic mechanics of the game. That's fun. That's good.
Got to give it to him.
And that's what he did with his companies too. He just like bought them.
And he gets to do that.
Didn't he?
Yeah. He said he paid the founders of Tesla to be able to say that he was the founder of Tesla, which is very cool.
Yep.
He also tried to get PayPal. I think he was on board PayPal when that first started. He tried to get that to be called X, and that didn't work out. So this obsession runs deep for him.
Yeah, he's just, man, it's a pattern of behavior.
Yeah, he's and he's gonna be running the government, shadow president.
Yeah, that's good. I can't wait till he diverts funds from FEMA to, who fucking knows, man, something dumb.
Yeah, well, I think that brings us to the end of the episode here. Thank you for all of you that submitted the most insane takes you saw for the California wildfire story.
Yeah.
I did reach out to the community and ask for you all to send in stuff.
And that's why you got to follow us on Instagram and Twitter.
And some of the stuff you guys sent did end up here. We already had the Elon Musk stuff, but a lot of the other conspiracies were directly from the community, and that's important.
That is important.
And that's why you should join the Discord as well. It's the best way to be consistently engaged with the Hiddo community.
We love to give back.
We do.
On this podcast.
So,
and, you know, because we love to give back, I hope you give back to us, too. You know what I'm saying? And head over to Patreon, just like these lovely, beautiful, wonderful people that I could never forget. Special thanks to Caden Kraut, Lord Tyler Radiant, Chris the Postman, Chrissy Beck, Dylan B., Andrew Harris, Mike Chaplinsky, Omar Zuno, Clayton LaFed, Mark Yeager, Caleb Joy, Rich Toro Tari, Gavin Mayer Maldonado, Hunter W., Fergalaki, Max Vazquez, Jacob Rogers, Colton Muberry, Fixer Punk, Jim Egbers, Jeff Muzzy, Beg Burrito, Cincy Alex, Joe Stenstrom, Adrian Sandoval, Chloe Sam 601, Colleen Cutsford, Yook, Jennifer DeVoe, Big Bird Titty, Crawfish, and Benny Penny III. You know what? While I'm in the middle of this list, I got to go back to Cincy Alex and say that I remember when he was in the comments in the midterm live stream. The first live saying that Ohio was gonna go blue. I'll never fucking forget that.
Cincy Alex, I know you still listen. You leave comments every once in a while.
Exactly.
Never been more wrong.
I'll never fucking forget you sitting there like, no, guys, Ohio's not going red. JD Vance is not getting elected. Fucking, well,
your next prediction better be LeBron's not winning that Senate seat.
I'm saying, and now JD Vance is a fucking vice president. So look at where that went. Either way, I digress. Alexi Benatti, Nietzsche, Big Booty Beatdown, Sam Maloney, Two-Headed Boy, Ventura's boyfriend, Ted Cruz's boy toy, Dictator Jace, Luke O'Shea, Cucker Tarleson, Danielle Jackson, The Word of Microsoft, Jennifer Science, Aaron and his Gundams, Darth Father, Taylor for Contact, Corey Chambers, L.E.N., Devin Hatchard, Retro Mondo, Emma the Dude Slayer, Veronica, a.k.a. V, Raxon, Ash Smith the Grottler, Flower Clown, Beetlebug, Murder in a Trench Coat, Lonnie Rogers, Slavic and Sapphic, Casey Lynn Kelly, Snake Eyes, and Hope of Giants, A.K. Gon, Zach Lantian, Info Russell, Austin Greif, Marcus Corbett, Caleb Roper, Taylor Rensock, Cammy, Tylen Freeman, Steak Daddy, Tay Tay, Isaac Hodges, Madeline C., Kayla Lowe, Anna Valinick,
KCC, Say Yes to West, August, Particular Pikmin, Sir Capalot, Jeff Signs, Howard the Duck, Brennan is Egg, JR, Drew Batchilder, Froggy Gumdrop, Jackie Boy, Shameless, Coherent Babbles, Sasha, MJ Sharp, Michaela Muncie, The Wallace 3000, Jared Finch, Tactical Snowflake, Son of Ander, Vanilla Bryce, Chris T, Kashan Lala, Amanda R, Hanky Panky, Tyler J, Damian Blues, Ashley White, Particulon, Memfrez, Lauren, Uncrestmatic Boar, I just fucking lost my spot. Uncrestmatic Boar, Sasquatch, Rhonda Stiletto, Midwest Marxist, Joe the Mailman, Gary from West Michigan, Shawnee GG, Juniper Not Jupiter, Stacked Crabs, I Crowley, Urban Peach, Lord of Forlorn, Holt Forsyth, Kevin Kasaya, Schnoodle, Booty Snakes, Erica, Krusty Krab, Dew Fairy, Chelceratops, Austin Lima, Lane Waltz, Azim Fida Hussein, Gorgeous Girl Mukes, Brooklyn G, Noverk the Dastardly, Goldthorn, Addie Book, Merlin, John from Houston, Anaya, Ian C, Cryo Bongi, That Art Dork, Sergeant Pookie, Connor Nix, Jordan Teague, Hoodie, Kim Kitsuragi, Rose Grimm, Kristen, Jamie the Young Extremist, Jack the Heathen, Archer W, Evan Mingo, AJ Torres, Elo Nico, Jake Hall, Julian Castro, 2028, maybe, I don't know, and my mom. Thank you all so much for supporting the show on Patreon. Remember to leave your questions for the Q&A episode that we will do in 1 week's time.
Yes.
first appearing on Patreon.
You got a couple days to cook those up.
And thanks for listening.
Yeah, hopefully it gets better.